fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time once again for MX5 action in the Simworx Roadster Rumble. This is a special event, the Team's Challenge, a 50-lap endurance race at Mount Panorama with 2 drivers per car. This is going to be a very fun night of racing with quite a few rules around pit stops and driver lengths to make things very spicy for the drivers here tonight. Of course, presented by many sponsors here tonight, like Simworx, KP Tech, Now Global Logistics, Rinaldi, Phoenix Smokers, Palmer's, Haynes Construction, Automotive Towing South Australia, Extreme Air Conditioning, and AMD Freight. And here to bring it to you all live on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, and David Haynes alongside in the commentary box with Jay Kennedy on production as per usual. Well, David, it's MX5s, which we know are incredibly fun, even at the worst of times, and Bathurst, which brings the fire every single time. I mean, we don't really need to say much about this track, do we?
No, let's not. No, let's. Great track. Awesome for all kinds of cars. Maybe not S5000s, but for these MX5s, it is going to be so good. I saw a little teaser of it last night. What you get is slipstreaming action up Mountain Straight, down Conrod Straight. Almost guaranteed to see the trailing car be able to use the slipstream to pass very cleanly at those 2 points of the circuit. Where it gets more difficult, more technical, and the driver's skill and confidence comes into play is everywhere from Griffin's Bend all the way to Forest's Elbow through that middle sector, and many places you can graze the wall, get heavily into the wall, and get yourself into some trouble. So easy to do. Most amazing place to watch these cars is definitely across Skyline and through the Dipper, though.
Yeah, the amount of speed that these MX-5s can carry through the corners on this track. You know, the MX-5 always designed to be a light and fast sports car. It's amazing to see how hard they're pushing in the qualifying session. This is what is on the cards for the race. 50 laps, of course, 4 pit stops per team, but you can't do more than 15 laps in a stint. The fuel tank has also been restricted to 20 litres in capacity, and you have to change at least 6 tyres during the race. You must change 2 tyres at every pit stop. So that's plenty for the drivers to work out here. With a maximum of 15 laps to a stint, that means that everyone's going to be pitting 3 times in this race. Shorter 5-lap stint that you might want to do towards the end or towards the start as well. Of course, there's plenty of wiggle room. You can do stints as long or short as you like within that window. And here's how things stand in qualifying at the moment with 7.5 minutes to go. Caleb Hyde's putting it on pole so far. Sonny Canchin might have something to say about that, though, as he brings the car across the line to start another lap. The 2 Boyds, Jack and Glenn, currently occupy 2nd place, and that is a very close gap between the top 2. But Tane Venables in P4 overall, leading of the Pro-Am class. They are doing incredibly well, those 2. Caleb Patterson and Tane Venables driving together. Venables ended up winning the class in the multi-class race last night. Caleb Patterson was incredibly quick in the GT4 class as well. They're a pairing to watch.
I think so, definitely punching a little above their weight in that one as well. Looking at more drivers completing their qualifying laps. So for Graham Ellis, going to be a little off what you'd expect. We're definitely looking at, as you can see, a pole right now of 229.9. Anything in the 130s, I would suggest, is, sorry, 230s, 231s is pretty competitive at the minute. Looking for Luke Kvist in the 44. It's Race Labs Racing. And that one was about a second short of an improvement. You're going to start running out of time in this session as well, because we're talking about 2.5-minute laps for these cars around beautiful 6.2 kilometers of Mount Panorama. So realistically, you got to be right now in the right place on track, because you're only going to get 1 or 2 more laps. Brody Cook is not in the right place on the track there, as I think that caught up a whole bunch of grass. Might get just 1 more lap. The queue up happening here.
That's interesting there. Nicholas Scaife and cars 8 and 111 pulling over at the exit of the chase. Peter Gretton is bringing it down into the chase himself, and he looks a bit more in control there than what we previously saw. Car number 87, bit down the order. In fact, they are currently last of the cars that have set times. Hopefully they'll be able to improve on a 2:35.2. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen on that occasion. Peter only has 1 more opportunity, maybe 2, to improve on his time there. They remain in 30th of the 30 cars we have in this session. Anthony Connors in car 13. He's looking for some improvements as well, currently 18th. He would have gotten a good slipstream down Conrod. 2:36.8 though, that's certainly not the time he'll be looking for. So drivers, I think, struggling to find some extra pace here at the end of the session. What can Jack Boyd do to try and take pole back from the Hydes Mcfarlane Racing number 5? He'll have to start off this lap and see what he can do. Nick Wood currently down in 9th place. He's driving the Phoenix Smokers car. And these are just the final runs here that the drivers are setting up. Could be an improvement here for Jake Craven, and it is in car number 18 to 26th position now. Not doing too badly.
I think quite a few of the off laps we've been seeing, like potentially this one for Hansford Taylor here as well, have just been drivers trying to back it up, try to find some space out on track, maybe get a slipstream off a buddy, off a stranger, or just find that clean track, whichever way it is. There's a few of them that, this one here for Hobson, for example, is not going to set pole position, but it will set him up with, I think, 2 to go. I'm looking at the the session, and if it's not advanced, he should get 2 more flying laps from here.
It's a bit odd to see Brenton Hobson not driving a car with the number 88. He's sharing the 42 with his teammate at Synergy Sim Racing, Damon Mulqueen. Both of those drivers have been regulars in the Simworx Sports Car Championships, both in GT4 and MX5. Be interesting to see how well they do here tonight. Carl Goodger coming to the end of a lap. Peter Gretton as well. We will see if he manages to improve on that 2 minute 35 that he set towards the start of the session. Hard on the brakes into the chase. Maybe a little wide of the apex. He's not going to like that too much, but he maintains momentum out of the corner. Very important to hook up the inside there at the chase, and it looks like Gretton's abandoning that run. Car 87 is not going to get another lap in, and I just saw that their right-hand wing mirror was dangling, so probably a 0x across the top of the mountain put paid to that lap.
Few drivers hanging about. Sure what they quite think they're doing. Going to be 1 more lap for everyone taking the line right now, because we're now at 2 minutes 20 seconds left in the session. No one's going to quite manage to lap that quickly in the remainder of this. So think of it as white flag in this session at the moment. Checkered flag not too far away. Scott Harvey caught a little bit of that grass on the way into the braking zone there. Very, very easily done. And they're not wide tyres, so a tiny bit on the grass basically means your entire outside tyre on the grass, not like some wider racing tyres where you can see people dip an inch out into the grass but still have 80% of the tyre on the pavement. Jake Craven, is that going to be an improvement? Not sure.
Second off, unfortunately. Graham Ellis coming towards the line, and he is not going to improve on that time, but with 1.5 minutes to go into the session, he should be able to complete this lap. Hansford Taylor sets a 2 minute 30.1. Not going to quite be, it's actually a personal best there. Improving, but not quite going up into second place. That number 97 Zingerbox racing car seems to be doing it very well. Brenton Hobson, let's see what he can do to improve on current 8th place. Their fastest time is a 2:31.3, and that's not going to be an improvement there. A minute to go in the session. Hopefully he has enough in the tank to bring it around for one more go.
Literally, rather than just figuratively in that one as well. Fuel consumption for a lap around here, pretty significant, because of course they are flat chat up Mountain Straight, down Conrod Straight, but then also, compared to some other cars, have a little bit more time at full throttle going up the mountain, past Griffin's Bend, past the cutting as well. It can be pretty close to flat out all the way around towards Skyline.
And Cory Mcfarlane, a current pole sitter in the Hydes McFarlane racing car. He's driving with Caleb Hydes. Looks to be carrying a bit of damage to his left mirror, so I think that run might just be abandoned there. McFarlane is pulling over on the run down to Murray's Corner and letting cars go. Maybe he's trying to get one more run in, but I don't think he's going to make it to the line in time. The timer hits, and yeah, he hadn't crossed the line. No extra lap for our current pole sitting car. Lucas McAuliffe, meanwhile, completing a lap there. He just ended up passing Cory Mcfarlane there, I believe. And this is looking pretty close coming into Murray's Corner. Some good drafting going on here. What can Damien Seeger do to improve on his time? Well, 3/10 will certainly do it, and that brings the Pouch racing car up to P11.
I think there was Team Perhaps in there that might have improved as well. With, Ben Snell. Nick Wood looks like an improvement for 3:08. No, a couple tenths short of their best lap in that car.
Well, Zachary Barr's going to be one of the final drivers here to set a time. Car number 19. Down in 29th position. Mentos Racing need to improve on a 2:34.3, and they've not been able to do that at the very end of the session. Checker flag flies. Zachary Barr will not get another time in. Meanwhile, Joel Proctor in number 63. These guys are 12th at the moment in the Carbon Eggplant team. Will he be able to improve? 2:32.9, and unfortunately that doesn't look like an improvement for them. Drivers, I think, struggling here at the end of the session, and the track is reasonably cool at 26 degrees, but yeah, they're just not able to get the pace out of them right at the end of the session. There's plenty of places you can make a mistake around Mount Panorama, and it might seem small, but it will affect your whole lap. Matt Van Egmond, number 48, they're currently 17th at the moment in the Team SJS MVE car. Is this going to be an improvement on a 2:32.1? No, it is not. Big shame there for a lot of drivers as Carl Goodger brings it into the lane. Doesn't actually... be interesting to see if there are improvements here for drivers coming into the chase, but I can't be sure. Looks like some off-track action going on, and I don't know if these drivers have been able to actually complete a lap. Seems to me that that is the end of the session as they all make their way back into the pits. So we can go through our grid here for the Simworx Roadster Rumble at Mount Panorama. Interesting session there, but I think what we can say without question is it's going to be quite a race for the lead between the Hydes McFarlane racing car and Boyd Racing. Caleb Hydes and Cory Mcfarlane in car 5, the two Boyds, Glenn and Jack in number 58. Zingerbox Racing doing very well to start on the second row alongside Downshift Sim Racing Pro. Caleb Patterson was driving the car and qualifying in the number 10. Few Blokes Inc. starts alongside Team WBT, 5th and 6th. Cooper Allen and Wayne Losh setting those times. Ben Snell put Team Perhaps into 7th. They're going to start alongside Simworx Penrite Extreme Racing. Lee Harrison, one of the series organisers, ending up driving that car to an 8th place finish in qualifying. Synergy Sim Racing, that's Hobson and Mulqueen. They'll start 9th alongside the Phoenix Smokers Racing crew. And then it's Pouch Racing and Carbon Eggplant who round out the top 12.
Yep, looking a little further down, Team KP Tech there for row 7 with White Knuckle Sim Racing. Got some fans on the stream already for that car, I think. Mauler Esports, Downshift Sim Racing, Team SJS MVE. Oh, you've broken our graphic with the 14, which is Sassy Foods, I Make It, You Take It. Actually, I get that reference. And then the next row, we've got Extreme Racing, SAVRT 111, TNT Racing, Carbon Pumpkins, Carbon Potatoes, and Race Labs Racing. Every vegetable they've got relatively high carbohydrates.
Yes, well, you need a lot of energy to drive around Bathurst, don't you? Even just a single lap. Downshift Sim Racing White's going to start out at 25th alongside the LR Esports entry. Jake Craven drove the car in qualifying. Rodkin Walkershaw Racing starts alongside Obsidian Racing. Bard Rodkin qualifying the number 50. Then we've got Mentos Racing and LR Esports. The second of the LR Esports cars with Peter Gretton at the wheel in qualifying, rounding out our field. We do have Ira Felberg in the session as race control, and there's every chance there could be a random safety car at some point during the race if we find an echidna around the circuit, or potentially an albino kangaroo. Just a reminder of this format. Remember, minimum 4 pit stops. Max laps per stint 15, max laps per driver 30, so there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing throughout the field here as we get ready to get things started. The Boyd Racing car starting a little further back there, and it's very spaced out on the grid actually here at Bathurst, not as tightly packed as I thought it would be. So the drivers will have a bit of space here if there are any incidents getting off the start for any drivers. It's still a very narrow circuit, Bathurst, and you've got to be careful to avoid any incidents. The rear of the field is starting around Murray's corner. They'll have to negotiate a turn once the green flag drops, which should be happening momentarily. and away we go. That start actually, I think, took a few drivers by surprise. That was very quick, that start there. We've already got some 3 wide further back in the field. The number 111 with Andrew Hobby at the wheel starting to make some moves there into turn 1. You see him there in the yellow machine. The front of the field have made their way through turn 1 for the first time, and my goodness, it is close between 3rd and 4th. Oh no, they've spun off Ben Snell and Sonny Canchin on Mountain Straight. A bit of a coming together there in a straight line.
Yeah, so early on, looks like Team perhaps have carried on without too much damage, but I think the Sonny Canchin car did make some pretty heavy contact with the wall up towards Griffin's Bend. Remember, it's going to be cold tyres for everyone. These cars are always quite taily, I think, on cold tyres. Makes them a little lively, and you can get yourself into trouble very easily lap 1, particularly if you're going to try to hold it side by side. That is going to back out. But Ben Snell is around again, exit of the cutting, and we've got a couple cars there.
Oh yeah, we have. Looks like majority of drivers avoiding action, but Dylan Canto there in the 78, son of Dean Canto, ultimately getting caught up in that. That was a shame to see, through very little fault of his own, in fact none at all. Snell spun in front of him, and Canto didn't really have anywhere to go, not much time to react. As you can see though, the top 4 very close together. It is the Hydes McFarlane racing car, Caleb Hydes at the wheel that leads the way. Then we've got Jack Boyd, Matthew Hansford Taylor, and Tane Venables in tow there. Venables, of course, driving the Downshift Sim Racing Pro machine. That's the leader of our Pro-Am cars at the moment.
A little bit of a mixed lottery. What category you ended up into? The number 92 there. White Knuckle Sim Racing, Sean Doyle. Catching some of that wall on the outside, as many drivers managed to do in the last week or so. So easily done, and he's been one of the first drivers to knock off their mirror. Drivers leaning on each other there, 37 and 26. So a few blokes and Simworx Penrite Extreme Racing leaning on each other a bit down towards the chase, and it might just happen again. Aaron Oliver's down the inside for the first part, around the outside for the second part. He's going to lose out.
Yeah, Josh Haynes defending the move there, but that's brought Damon Mulqueen and Nick Wood into the fold. Nick in the Phoenix Smokers machine behind the Synergy number 42. Another 4-car battle here. We've got Damien Seeger, Tom Huggan, Jesse White-Carrick, and of course Sean Doyle, who we still have a little appointment with the wall at Forest Elbow. Looks like we've got a car around at the chase. Car number 77, the Downshift Sim Racing white car. And that does not look too good there for Graham Ellis. Seems he's escaped without damage, but unfortunately ran a little wide of the apex and spun on his own. Have a look at the battle for the lead though. It's bump drafting between those drivers. Get a virtual racing school replay here of the incident that ended up spinning around Sonny Canchin. So Canchin was there, but Snell, he looked like he might have tried moving a little bit to the left. Unfortunately, when the cars tap together side by side like that, it's very easy for one of the drivers to get spun around. So Sonny Canchin, unfortunately, having a lot of work to do here right at the start of the race. Some slight technical issues for Caleb Hydes, and that means the lead was almost in trouble. There was a little bit of contact between Hydes and Boyd as Hydes blinked back into existence.
Always some effects of returning from the shadow realm. Good look backwards from your leader at how close Boyd Racing is running along, and everyone else staying right in touch as well. Bit of a 4-horse race early on, and in fact this lead group about 4 seconds a lap faster on the opening lap than 5th place, where Few Blokes Inc. and Josh Haynes have got a whole heap of cars in tow there as well. I'm sure that'll stabilise a little bit onto this first proper flying lap of the race. Doesn't look like anyone is catching this top 4 just yet. The closing speeds are going to be massive between, 3rd and the leader by the end of Conrod Straight here.
An excellent draft opportunity this is, especially in these cars. And if you manage to fall off the back of a pack, then you're not going to have a very good time, as that's a move there. Aaron Oliver ending up getting by Josh Haynes finally at the chase. Oh dear, I've just seen Ben Snell in the Team Perhaps car has gone for yet another spin down Conrod Straight. It looks like there was actually a car stopped. Terry Knowles in the TNT Racing number 9. He had contact with the number 226 of Todd George. So that's not going to be fun there. They come together. The number 9 tries to recover, moves across the circuit, and there goes Ben Snell. Didn't quite have much time to react there.
So you got to look back a little further. TNT was side by side here with Carbon Potatoes, and baked or fried. I think Carbon Potatoes are a little closer to mashed after that.
Yeah, that's no good for them. So few drivers, a few cars already having to come in for repairs. The battle for the lead continues though, and Jack Boyd, you know, it feels like he wants to get by Caleb Hides, but I'm sure he's aware the slipstream is just too valuable. Have a look at this pack of cars meanwhile. Damon Mulqueen here in 7th place. He's got 2 cars ahead of him, but 5 more cars behind as we check out Haynes and Oliver. They're continuing to fight as they have been since the very start of the race, not leaving each other alone there. But a wonderful chain of cars coming over McPhillamy. You're not going to be able to make any moves here at Skyline. It's pretty much follow the leader down through the S's. And for Josh Haynes, it's all going to be about the exit onto Conrod Straight.
Yeah, I think so. Look at how close he is and how much speed he seems to have over the top of the mountain, but you just can't sensibly pass there, despite the fact he showed the nose in a couple of bizarre-ish sort of places. What might work for Josh Haynes here and Few Blokes Inc. is if any of the cars behind want to push him to the lead. If they'd rather see this car lead this pack and try to catch the leaders, they might push him through, but instead they're pushing Aaron Oliver and Simworx, Penrite, Extreme Racing. It's just the 2 of them. How many cars can we get for a choo-choo train? They're only half a second off the leader last time, so they might yet still be able to catch. They're going to have another look after the push though, and I think you're more likely to give up that lead if they've pushed you halfway down the straight there. It's a gesture of goodwill.
Yes, quite a bit of overspeed for the Penrite Extreme Racing machine. Well, Josh Haynes has gained a good gap over them here for 5th place as they cross the line to begin lap 4 of 50. But that train behind is just immense as, oh no, Damon Mulqueen, the rear end got away from him coming into Hell Corner. It's a deceptively difficult corner, turn 1 here at Bathurst, and that's a spanner in the works that Synergy Sim Racing will not need. Oh dear, is this going to be a pass for 3rd? Tamer Nables trying the move on Matthew Hansford-Taylor in the Zinger Box car and trying to get it done there through Griffins, and he does. The camber that the road has to the inside really helps you if you want to make a move there.
Yeah, that's a crown that I'd watch more than any Netflix series. Through turn 2 there, it's just so dominant. You get to the inside, you get all that banking that the drive around the outside doesn't have, makes the inside line far more powerful, despite how one line it becomes in the opposite direction just later on at the cutting. So there's another view from Hansford. Taylor is probably be pretty happy to stay just in this top 4 pack at the moment. What I noticed from a bunch of the drivers behind is there was definitely some fuel saving going on, so I think the drivers and the teams are starting to think that maybe they can work that into their strategy.
Yeah, spend a bit less time stopped in the box. Remember, it is a minimum of 4 stops for every car. They're locked into that, but the time you can minimize spent at a standstill in the lane is always proper. It's always something you want to focus on. These guys are starting to get very leery. Cars carrying damage in this pack. It's Damien Seeger and Sean Doyle side by side. The 747 up the inside of Forest Elbow, but great drive around the outside there from Sean Doyle. And it looks like Seeger, he ended up having to compromise himself out of there, and that damage to the front certainly not going to be helping him. Actually, both of these guys letting Scott Withers and Owen Coleman go. And I think Doyle and Seeger They might have had a coming together earlier on in the lap, because last time they passed the line, they were classified 9th and 10th. That's interesting there for the lead. Hydes McFarlane Racing falling back out of the chase. What on earth has gone on here?
You've got a damaged lap car ahead. Oh, and everyone else has thought we'll go to the left, and Caleb Hydes carried lots of speed through the first part and then just ended up boxed in behind that very, very wounded looking car.
Yeah, Terry Knowles had already brought that car into the pits for repairs earlier, so there's been a further issue there for the number 9 machine, TNT Racing. Number 24, meanwhile, the downshift racing car of Owen Coleman. He's with the Carbon Pumpkins machine and the Sassy Foods team as well. Scott Withers in the number 14 at the moment, trying to defend the inside into Griffins. He can't move over and take the racing line. Owen Coleman is right there on the outside coming into Griffins, but it's not quite where you want to be in that corner. The crown in the road demonstrated brilliantly there. Look at how much time he ended up losing.
People always say this is a car that's about maintaining the momentum through the corners. It's more about the apex speeds and the minimum speeds through a corner than it is how early you can get on the throttle and how late you can apex, or even indeed how late you can brake in. So that, in combination with the shape, three-dimensionally, the topography of turn number 2, you saw just working out really well. It does go bad to worse for that TNT car, because Terry Knowles, driving a very damaged machine down into pit lane, is going to have a drive-through penalty as well, not leaving racing room for car 226 on lap 2.
Yeah, so that would have been the
Potatoes.
The Potatoes, the Carbon Potatoes team. One of the big incidents that we saw on lap 2 and Conrod in particular. That incident that on recovery ended up taking out Ben Snell once again. So looks to me like Owen Coleman here, he hasn't quite been able to get as close to Withers as he was at the start of the lap, but in the slipstream down Conrod, he'll have another chance towards the start of the next lap. So to recap, your top 4 at the moment, currently Boyd Racing, Zingerbox Racing, Downshift Sim Racing Pro, and Hydes McFarlane Racing, losing 3 positions. The biggest gainer in the field is the number 111 car. That's the SAVRT machine, Andrew Hobby at the wheel. They have done incredibly well so far, avoiding the opening chaos.
It's always a way to gain some positions early. I would have had my my bet on for Synergy Sim Racing to gain a bunch of positions until we saw that problem, and here they are right on pit lane already. I wonder, this could be an early pit call, because you look at the strategy requirements of 4 pit stops. Well, if that's evenly across the race, they'll be pitting every 10, but they can go up to 15 in a stint. So this might just be an early stop and maybe clear one of those early driver changes as well.
Yeah, we'll see if they end up putting Brenton Hobson in the car and put him in for a bit of a longer stint. Looks like they are.
So didn't quite get to see, but I assume some of those tyre changes are also going to happen now. It is a longer stop than some of the other ones I've seen. It's not on the jacks right now.
Might be topping up the tank first. Well, Brenton Hobson does make his way out of the box there. Unclear on if it was a tyre change for the Synergy car.
308 Phoenix Smokers Racing has a drive-through penalty now for hitting Synergy lap 4, turn 1. So
that
maybe there was a little more to it than we saw.
Yeah, the reason for Mulqueen's spin into Hell Corner, I initially called it as him making a mistake on his own, but it does look like contact was involved there. So, unfortunate there for the Phoenix Smokers entry. Nick Wood is going to have to bring that in pretty soon to serve that penalty. And he's currently involved in that battle with Tom Huggan and Jesse White-Carrick for 7th place. He is undoubtedly going to lose that position at the end of it. And it seems wasting no time in just letting these fellow drivers go to continue their battle. We'll see if he decides to bring it into the pit lane here. No, actually, interestingly, he's decided to stay out for an extra lap there.
That's the thing, you get a certain number of laps to serve, whether it's laps of Mount Panorama or it's laps of centripetal circuit. So you actually get quite a lot of time, and I mean time comparatively, to serve around Bathurst.
Aaron Oliver, meanwhile, fighting in the top 5, brings the Simworx Penrite Extreme car in for its first stop of the night. See if there's a driver change on the cards for them. It is. Lee Harrison is going to be jumping into that machine. And the top 4 still together here. That number 5 car just holding on here to the back of this pack, and I think it's a pretty wise decision for them. You know, they'll be able to save a bit of fuel here in the draft, minimize their stop time when they eventually decide to come in, and they also get an opportunity just to hang back a little and react to any mistakes ahead.
Yeah, this early on, you probably don't want to be leading every single lap, so you do got to think that long game. And I'm trying to take a look at some of the earlier pit stops we've seen. Almost everyone has been just filling it to the brim with fuel. One of the other things you've got to factor in is a driver change takes 30 seconds, no matter what other service you're doing. So you've got to do a couple driver changes, given that longest drive time as well. There's only going to be so many stops where short filling the fuel actually gains you any time.
Yes. You also got to remember that maximum laps for a driver is 30. So we are going to see probably at least 2 driver changes for quite a few of the cars here tonight. As the top 4 make their way into the chase, and very nice run through the corner for all of them. The Zingerbox racing car decides to go for the lane. Matthew Hansford-Taylor bringing in the number 97, and this will be significant here. This is probably going to be the trigger here for the rest of the top 4 to make their way in.
Could be looking a little busy now on pit lane, Zingerbox and Few Blokes Inc. I suspect at this point we're still going to be seeing driver changes at most of these. That's a scruffy looking pit entry potentially. In fact, I think I can see some marks across the gravel there. So this could also be an unsafe pit entry if you deviate far enough from that pit entry lane.
Take a look at it again for car 308, which, remember, has a drive-through penalty hanging over their head. Oh, this is interesting. Actually, a bit more to it this time. Car number 8 having a problem ahead of the 308. Now,
Team KP Tech.
Yes, Jesse White-Carrig at the wheel, and oh no, 308 is going way too hard into the chase.
Yeah, what type of problem would you describe them as having had there?
A little bit of a bumpity-bump problem.
Object in mirrors are closer than they appear?
Perhaps. Braking point is earlier than it appears, probably, and then the potential second issue for the 308. There we go.
I think the steering
trip into the gravel.
The steering was more damaged than he expected from that first hit, because that didn't look like too much speed. It looked like he went to take a left turn and it just didn't do it with the damage. So who knows exactly how all of that might stack up. Not into a quick pit stop or gaining much time, unfortunately.
No. Well, Jesse White-Carrig, along with Owen Coleman, Scott Withers, and now Brenton Bull on the back of this pack in the Carbon Pumpkins machine, and I think very reasonable to call it the Pumpkins car. Nice orange colour on that machine. But it seems that the majority of the field separating into these 4-car battle packs, nowhere near as close as they were just 7 laps ago. Those incidents throughout the field combined with pit stops for many drivers means that these guys will be fighting with each other for the time being. And Coleman lining up a move here on White Carrig. And Jesse, a little bit of oversteer through the right-hander into the chase. It's not the fastest corner in Australian motorsports for nothing, and that is move complete for Downshift Sim Racing. They moved themselves up into 6th position there, and they were 9th at the start of the lap. Oh, there's rear-end contact. Jesse White Carrig getting into the back of Owen Coleman there. That lets Scott Withers and Brenton Bull right by at the chase. I don't think Coleman's going to be too happy with that one.
It's a cycle of violence, isn't it? It breeds more. Unfortunately, mistake under braking there in the final corner, which we're going to take another look at from this perspective. Well, there's a car there in the blind spot, trust us, but yeah, that's too deep.
And if we can stay on the replay, there's actually been many further problems for car 308. In combination with Shane Seddon in the Mentos Racing machine. Nick Wood is nursing heavy damage here late into the pits, and also the number 19 going for the lane as well. They made contact there, and the front bumper will fall off the 308. They make further contact trying to recover. Oh, man.
Such a late move to pit entry there that slowed so much. The car behind had to go down the inside to try to not hit, and that's exactly the moment that car that was all the way at the right hand side of the circuit and going slowly cut across to the left.
It's a shame. It's not really what you want to see. Meanwhile, Dylan Canto, remember, he ended up crashing into the spinning Ben Snell on lap 1. Well, he hasn't done too badly to keep himself solidly in the midfield here. He's getting chased down by Greg Holmes for 12th place. They got the LRE sports car of Jake Craven not too far behind them either. It's amazing to see that Dylan Canto has been able to recover as he has. Of course, he has been helped by many cars coming into the pit lane over the course of the first 9 laps, but still, things could be a lot worse for number 78.
Absolutely, and in the midst of a pack of a bunch of teams that have gained some positions here, we talked about Race Labs Racing and Extreme Racing have picked up some spots. So everyone in this pack on the move forward.
So we've gotten a penalty for the 308 once again for unsafe pit entry, but I'm not too sure how to interpret that, because car 19 did slow down and cut right across the track. The 308, I don't think they were able to do much about that incident. So interesting to see that they've been given the penalty for that as more cars jump into the lane. KP Tech, LRE Sports and Obsidian Racing now all making their way in. So everyone except for the top 11, the Extreme Racing and Rodkin Walkinshaw Racing car in 13th and 15th have yet to pit.
I want to be honest with you. I think that 308 has been penalised for an unsafe pit entry as they've tried to come to pit lane to serve the penalty for the unsafe pit entry they got last time they tried to come to pit lane for a penalty they'd been given.
Right. So it's penalties stacked on penalties.
I think we're at 3 turtles on top of each other at the moment on that one.
Goodness me, it's not been a good day there for the 308 car. Hopefully they'll be able to recover with Steve McMahon now in the Phoenix Smokers car taking over. And there we go. Another trip to the pit lane for them. That will be another penalty, hopefully served without incident. So here's the top four once again. And we did see a bit of an exchange between these drivers down at Griffin's Bend on the last lap. They've separated out a little bit. The number 5, with Caleb Hides at the wheel, is back up into 3rd place, but with a little bit of a gap ahead of them to 2nd and 1st. Andrew Hobby and Tom Huggan, they've been keeping each other good company. They move up to 4th and 5th now in the midst of all of the pit stops. Hearing that there are potentially another couple of drivers getting into the lane. Seems to me that the Mentos racing car has brought its way in, and the 235 as well, Carbon Pumpkins.
Yep, so we're left at increasingly decreasing, that's not a good way to describe it, number of cars that haven't stopped yet. You saw just 2 being changed on the tyres for the number 19 there, and that's what most teams are going to do. Every single stop, they can take some fuel, change 2 tyres, and change their driver, and all of that comes out to about 30 seconds. There's only a few teams that have been through the lane quicker, and there are stops where they did not change driver. You can see the driver change happening for the 78 there. It's going to be Dylan Canto out. Flick the graphic off, flick it back on. Who's it going to say?
Should say Shane Nowens, but maybe... there we go. Nowens is in the car. So, be interesting to see what he can do to increase the potential good result for that car. Number 10 getting very leery down through the S's. Team Benables is leaving nothing on the table. And I tell you what, Benables was very strong at the start of qualifying. He actually held provisional pole at the very start of the session before Boyd and Hides McFarlane were able to take those positions from them. But it's been an excellent performance from the top Pro-Am car so far. And well in the draft of the Boyd Racing machine down Conrod Straight, they'll be on for an excellent overall result if they keep this up.
These 3 are overcutting Zingerbox Racing at the moment as well. 232s basically for this pack. 233.5 last lap for Matthew Hansford Taylor in that 97 that was part of that leading pack. Stopped earlier, and looks like it would have been fuel and 2 tyres but no driver swap. So next stop they'll probably be coming up for a driver swap in the 97. Don't know what anyone in the top 3 is going to do yet, but separated from the lead pack, they haven't been able to cut quite the same amount of speed.
In comes Carbon Eggplant for their first stop. The number 63 with Tom Huggan at the wheel making his way in, and trying there for second place was, not for second place, for a position, the Zingerbox car, and car peels into the pits ahead of them. That's fine. We can keep continuing as we are. Matthew Hansford Taylor will move up into 9th place as a result of that, as Matt Van Egmond brings the 48 into the lane. Looks like Joel Proctor in the Carbon Eggplant machine as well, still stopped in the lane at the moment.
Yeah, and so then 30.9 seconds for that Carbon Eggplant stop. It's 30 seconds for a driver change, and that's the longest thing in these stops that require a driver change. So I'd be thinking it'd be good if you could align your strategy to early on have cleared your compulsory tyre changes and some of your driver changes, and then be in that spot to take the last driver change as your penultimate stop, potentially.
Yeah, that will probably work out well. Fact that you won't have to spend as long in the pits on your final stop, getting that mandatory 30 seconds out of the way for the driver change. This is looking quite interesting between White Knuckle and Simworx Penrite Extreme. Lee Harrison trying to chase down Sean Doyle.
That also gives us an element to the strategy that you very rarely have in a lot of other endurance races, where you will spend less time in the pit lane the less driver changes you do. Looking at the replay, big speed differential coming down the bottom of the hill and across Skyline. Led to a couple of bumpers rubbing, but that happens quite commonly for these cars regardless. It's what it looked like for Owen Coleman. You could already see the slow car, but where are they going? The answer is, who knows?
It's basically one line only down here, and you see Coleman had to back out very hard down into the S's and Dipper to avoid contact there. There's been another development for the race lead. The Downshift Sim Racing Pro number 10 managed to make the move down Conrod Straight for the lead, and Jack Boyd responded by bringing the Boyd Racing 58 into the pits. Andrew Hobby also in the SA VRT car. That's their first stop now out of the way. So now it's between Tane Van Abels and Caleb Hydes up at the front of the field as Luke Quist, driving with Nick Skariev in this race, brings the number 44 down into the car, the Race Labs entry.
Here we go. Two more cars on the pit lane. Lee's Downshift and Hydes McFarlane out together in the lead, and they have really ratcheted up that pace into the 2:31s at the moment. By comparison, last lap for Zingerbox Racing, 2:32.7, so 1.2 seconds quicker for Downshift compared to Zingerbox Racing. Are we going to see a similar effect from Boyd Racing? They have made a driver swap there and put Glenn Boyd in.
I'm not too sure that they will, because Boyd was very delayed getting out of the pit box. He actually crept backwards for a few seconds. He's now out of the pits, but
total transit time, minute 15 compared to what should have been 45 seconds. Has there been
I think there might have been a hardware issue, actually, because I was looking at the Boyd Racing car, and as Glenn got in, the steering ended up turning all the way to the left, so there might have been a slight calibration issue with Glenn's wheel. Not too sure about that, but either way, it has cost them a ton of time, and they won't be fighting for the lead again anytime soon. It's a big shame, a blow to Boyd Racing's campaign that they really didn't need, as Lee Harrison and Sean Doyle continue their fight here for what is now 7th and 8th on track. Both of these drivers have come into the pits, and it was 31 seconds stop there for Lee Harrison, 14.1 seconds for Sean Doyle. They didn't take tyres on that stop, so they might be in a slight bit of trouble towards the end of this stint. The tyres do last quite some time here on the MX-5 Global Cup car, but at the same time, you don't want to be staying on that rubber for too long.
What we are going to see as well is the track temperature keep rising. It was 26, it's 28 now. We're getting later through the morning towards a finish that'll be a little bit before midday, and it is a mostly cloudy day, but you have seen some direct sunshine and that track temperature creeping up. I have a feeling like are you seeing the 42 try to make a move here?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, it is a proper move here down Conrod Straight. Boyd, I think, a little delayed getting on the throttle out of Conrod, so that's going to be Brenton Hobson now taking that position from the Boyd Racing car. But remember, Synergy 42 still recovering from the contact and spin for Damon Mulqueen a little earlier.
2 leaders staying out still, so they are going to push this all the way to that maximum stint length. It would look like.
Not leaving anything on the table here. Both of them driving incredibly hard. Caleb Hydes up here ahead of Tane Van Abels. Let's see what the slipstream is like down Conrod Straight. almost looked like the number 5 collected the wall, but they, I think, just avoided it and got the optimum exit as a result. Let's see
Does
if...
it bother you that the tachometer behind the race dash works, but the speedo doesn't?
A little bit, yes, as the number 10 goes for the move down Conrod and into the chase. Hides is not going to fight this one too hard. He knows, of course, that they'll be working with each other long towards the end of the race if they want to have any chance of getting either of the top 2 positions here. Now, do either of them come into the pits this time? Are they going to extend it out? Both of them go in, and Caleb Hides very deep on the brakes. Team Enable's almost going off the circuit. Slow all the way down to 50 kilometers an hour. Got to be careful in these cars because having a pit speed limiter wasn't the done thing in the MX-5 for a long while. They do have one now, so they don't have to worry about that. But hey, if we were driving the old car, we'd probably be seeing a lot of speeding in pit lane penalties.
Bring back the H pattern and rumble or something. I don't know.
I can't use it to practice with my real MX-5 anymore.
Yeah, well,
Scott Withers brings it in.
You can still use the H pattern in the NC, and that's probably a lot closer to half of what people are track daying as well, regardless. Hansford, Taylor, sorry, it's car one further up the road. It's Lee Harrison and Sean Doyle. Simworx, Penrite Extreme, and White Knuckle Sim Racing. Now, I'm trying to seek some clarification around this because we've got a couple of cars that pitted and still have the same driver in. White Knuckle is one of them. The other was Hansford Taylor and Josh Haynes. Only cars to have done that. Ben Snell seems very, very adamant that that is not allowed, but Race Control have been quite quick to penalise things on track, unsafe pit entries, car contact. Are they not looking at the same timing screen as us? Do they not know, or is there a different interpretation to the rules there?
Maximum laps for any one driver is 30. So
in the
maximum stint, meanwhile, is 15. So you will be able to leave one driver in the car for 2 full stints of 15 laps if you so desire. At least that's how I see it. This is very close here between the 10 and the 5 have just come out of the pits, and number 10 going past at Quarry Corner. Good racing here between these guys, and they've ended up coming out of the pits in 3rd and 4th. We've got Few Blokes Inc. and Zingerbox Racing now leading the way in the top 2. But this battle for 3rd, incredible.
Those 2 cars I was talking about that did fuel, potentially tyres, but no driver swap at the first time around. So for some reading of the rules, they might have to stop at the end of this lap. This is the end of lap 15. So watch what they do, because I don't know. Some of these things sound a little bit up to interpretation. Did you like that great shot we had before from the rear bumper looking straight into the other car?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I loved seeing the intercooler getting a bit of a taste for the inner workings of these machines. It's side by side down Conrod for these.
Do you know who makes my favourite Miata hubs?
Who's that?
MiataHubs.net.
Oh. Well, that certainly makes sense.
As a sneaky little HJ sponsor plug.
Well, number 37 coming into the lane, and 97
so both of these cars following that interpretation of the rule that I just made up off the top of my head, not Ben Snell's understanding of it, but definitely the reading of the rule book from these 2 teams, they definitely were fueled to have gone longer, but they are both looking to make a driver swap at the end of lap 15. It would look like. Let's go.
Sean Doyle, meanwhile, did not pit though, so that car might be in a bit of trouble.
Principal's not going to have to go far to tell his mother about it. There is a driver swap at both of those other cars that did pit just then at the end of lap 15. So for Zingerbox Racing, they are swapping to Ollie McLansborough, and Few Blokes Inc. is going to Cooper Allen. 2 tyres from both of them as well, I think. That looks like the left side up, at least briefly, didn't it?
Yeah, looked like it to me. Looks like the Zinger Box car is going to lose out there. A bit longer spent in the lane as Craven and Connors fight for 17th and 18th. And
I think they both had the same pit stop time. They were just separated by 5 or 6 seconds before they came in. They weren't packed together because they'd stopped different laps the first time around. And we saw those 4 cars that were all together, pitted different laps, and now have ended up a little bit further separated, a little off cycle. Though Isaac McFarlane and Downshift are back together. And you had that long stop for the Boyd Racing father-son combo.
Yes, the Boyd Racing car is now down in 9th as this fight for 17th and 18th continues. It looks like Jake Craven running wide there, and that means Anthony Connors can use the banking of the road on the inside to get by quite easily in Griffin's Bend. But I tell you what, they've been racing very hard, these two, and get the feeling that Jake Craven is nowhere near done with this. Have a look at his exit out of the cutting. He is right on it. So, up the front, Hydes McFarlane is a second ahead of Downshift Sim Racing Pro, which means they will be getting a whisper of a slipstream, but they are having to deal with a slight bit of lap traffic. Tony Dang in the TNT Racing number 9. Oh, it's a bit unclear on where he's going to go on the run down to Murray's Corner. That held up the number 5 slightly. That's brought the gap right down to half a second, and there's contact between Caleb Patterson and Tony Dang as Patterson tried to make his way past. Dang not having a very good time out there, but that has definitely brought the gap for the lead right down. Downshift Racing Pro, though, with the right side mirror hanging by a thread, damage that they won't want at the moment. And the Synergy number 42 coming in for its second stop. That was a stint of 11 laps there for Brenton Hobson.
Yeah, so these cars that have now already made 2 of their compulsory pit stops, on the timing column or on the timing screen or whatever, don't look super clever right now. They're not being scored laps led, but I think there is something in balancing your drive times early, clearing some of those compulsory tire changes earlier, and then gearing yourself up for some longer stints towards the end. Because obviously if the cars can go 13, 14 laps on fuel, but you've got to do 4 stops in a 50 lap race, the average stint length is only going to be 10. So, you either slice it super evenly, or, you run long early and you're going to have some short stints later, or it does look like there's a few teams front loading a lot of their pit stops. And they could still look pretty smart late on in the race, but it's still quite a long way to go in this one.
Yes, well, I guess you could say that any race at Mount Panorama is about the long game. These drivers all know that, and as long as you can buy your ticket to the end, you're all good. You just got to
okay, that's off my bingo card now.
Yep, there we go. Always like ticking boxes here at SimSpeed TV.
I've already got fastest corner in Australian motorsport off as well.
Yes, you have, and you're very much welcome.
Brilliant. 5th and 6th as they run on track, and in fact, you've got 2 car packs, pairings, twin packs for first,
duos,
for third, and for 5th. I was trying to make it sound, like a candy bar, one of them chocolates where you get, 2 Mars bars in the pack or something.
Share with a mate, but we all know that we don't.
Yeah. So Isaac McFarlane and Downshift, who followed exactly the same strategy as each other out front. Simworx, Penrite, and White Knuckle, 3rd and 4th. Big question marks around those pit stops for White Knuckle in 4th at the moment, if I'm honest with you. Nothing dodgy looking for 5th and 6th here, and those are the cars that we look at on screen. Big positions gained for SAVRT, 111, 111, 111 in 5th, so they started 20th on the grid. and cleared one of their compulsory pit stops, one of their driver changes, and they're up into 5th.
Such an impressive drive from SAVRT as Damon Mulqueen is back in the Synergy number 42 and makes his way past the number 38 coming into the chase up into 19th position. Let's see if Mulqueen can escape any dramas here in this stint. He's got big gaps in front and behind, so shouldn't be in too much trouble. We'll see how they end up going. Meanwhile, Sonny Canchin, he was taken out in a spin on lap 1, and he's been trying to get on a recovery drive ever since. Started in 6th and down in 23rd place. That car has already taken 2 pit stops, and the team WBT car has only seen actually Wayne Losh did jump into the car when Sonny Canchin brought it in at the end of lap 4. So Sonny Canchin now in for his 2nd stint after doing an incredibly short first one.
In that situation with, losing all of the track position early and, having some damage and that, I would be trying to clear a bunch of my pit stops early, sprinkle some ants at the cutting and see if you can lure out an echidna.
I'd probably be doing the same.
Do you know what brought out the echidna on the weekend?
What's that?
Ant on Di Pasquale.
No. You must stop this.
Cease.
Cease and desist. You'll be getting a letter from my solicitor. Goodness. That was well executed, though.
It's only for my entertainment and everyone else's suffering. Sean Doyle back on the pit lane.
God, it's always amazing watching those cars go into the braking zone. Yeah, Doyle into the lane. Mos Moros brings it in as well, and the number 747. They're still up the order, doing very well in the pouch racing machine. Number 92, White Knuckle car, is also in the lane. Scott Harvey has jumped into the car, and they are getting one of their tyre changes out of the way as well. Looking to me like left side tyres there. And tyres on both sides for the 747, and it looks like potentially a driver change there. Damien Seeger back in the car.
Yes, they are doing both. If you can get both done in the 30 seconds, then not a whole lot of reason not to. For some reason, that stop was 36 seconds for White Knuckles. Harvey took over from Sean Doyle for 747. I am eagerly waiting to see. They are going longer than 30 seconds as well on that stop. So I think you can only change 2 within the driver swap time. To change 4 will take a little more of your time. I think the left sides change. I think the left sides change quicker as well here because that's the side that faces the garage. They don't have to run around the car, and I mean that in all seriousness.
Yes, of course. There's a lot that affects the amount of time that your pit stop takes in iRacing, particularly with now a graphical pit crew in the lane for quite a few cars. You have to be very careful about how you stop in your stall. If you're a little bit too far forward, back, right or left, then your pit stop can have seconds added to it.
It's one of those funny things. You've got an invisible pit crew that you almost never ever see, but your actions affect your pit stop time. And they do things in a particular order that doesn't always seem sensible or intuitive. But once you realise what they do in the order they do it, you can sometimes optimise the little things around the pit stops.
So Lee Harrison now all alone in 3rd place after the car he was battling with brought their way in. The top 2 still as close as they've ever been. Caleb Patterson, of course, now in the number 10 and joined by Cory Mcfarlane in the top 3. But tell you what, Harrison in the Penrite Extreme car, not doing too badly at the moment. Ended up, I think, having a little bit of an error on the previous lap. His lap time didn't count for lap 19. But looking at the times that he has been running, low 2:32s, that's almost in line with what Patterson and Mcfarlane are doing up the front. But remember, they have the benefit of drafting each other. As we check out our top running order, some big gaps starting to form here between the cars in the top 10, and any position change is likely going to come down to the next round of pit stops.
Yeah, such ridiculously broad pit stop windows and, various different compulsory stops does mean we've got huge variation in the strategy that's spread out some of the leaders. Things look pretty close behind here, though. We've got more multi-packs, Extreme Racing and Race Labs just there. Carbon Pumpkins and Sassy Foods right here, and then immediately behind them, Resurgent Synergy Sim Racing are currently towing around LR Esports.
And there is Damien Seeger in the 747, newly pitted that car, with Vasilis and Kanchan rounding out the top 20. We'll have to keep an eye there on the WBT number 68. Very fast pairing of drivers there as Jesse White-Carrig and Mr. Newens fighting over last couple of positions outside the top 20. Lucas McAuliffe in the number 226. They are where they started at the moment in the Carbon Potatoes entry, but remember, they had that massive crash on Conrod on lap 4, I believe, or was it lap 2? I'm not quite sure. Either way, they're on a recovery as well.
Second pit stop going on for the 26. So after 14 laps, that'll have to be a driver swap as well. Simworx, Penrite, Extreme, Carbon Eggplant on the lane as well. So this is going to be pretty common in the middle of the race, I think. Everywhere from lap 5 to 45, it's going to be, someone's pitting because they figured it'd suit. Again, seeing a lot of left side tyres. I say that there's some right sides going on for Carbon Eggplant as Lee Harrison makes way for Aaron Oliver, and I forgot who's in Carbon Eggplant. It's replaced by Huggin. Well, Huggin's in now.
Yes, Joel Proctor was the one who brought it in.
Look at JRE pitting as well.
Yeah, Jake Craven bringing the number 18 in. This could be an extra free position for the number 42, moving up into 15th place now. Car exiting the pits just up ahead of them. And that is going to be Tom Huggin and Carl Goodger up ahead of them in the Carbon Pumpkins and Eggplants entries. Huggin just coming out of the pits.
I think we could see a bit of teamwork happen here now that these teammates are reunited.
Yeah, see if they can try their best to keep the charging Damon Mulqueen behind them.
It definitely seems if you find someone with a similar pace to you and you run together, you go faster than by yourself. You saw a little bit of tyre warming and weaving going on there, so maybe Eggplant won't be able to keep up with Pumpkins. But if they had been able to, you definitely get the feeling that someone who's going to work with you is going to make both of you go faster. You've been seeing that from these two leading cars, consistently some of the quickest cars on the track. A lot of race pace right now, and through this opening 21 now onto lap 22. But they've only made and cleared one of their 4 compulsory stops. They're definitely setting themselves up to backload some of those pit stops.
Yeah, we're coming up to half race distance very shortly, so we're going to be seeing a flurry of pit stops from those top teams. You saw Dylan Canto just on screen there. He's gotten back into the number 78, taking over from Shane Newens. And meanwhile, for car number 19, Shane Seddon has jumped in to replace Zachary Barr, and they are back out on track as well. The number 19 is running down in 27th at the moment. They are the leader of the cars that are more than a lap down. Have a look at that move there. 16th and 17th going down here, coming into the chicane. Beasley and Seeger, fantastic stuff between them. And it looks to me like Carl Goodger, there's quite the exchange going on there. Goodger actually coming into the pit lane. So it was a brief reuniting between the two carbon cars, but Damon Mulqueen is caught right up to them now. This will be yet another position for them, up into 14th for the time being, looking at 13th.
Yeah, sure is. Since coming out of the pits with 2 new tyres, just looked a little vulnerable. Carbon eggplant. Damien Mulqueen's up at speed and he's looking down the inside here. That's... Oh, he maybe got on the brakes a little early there, even though he had shown the nose.
Maybe doing the smart thing there and realising that maybe he wasn't far up enough to get the move done. Sometimes it can be difficult to tell whether or not a move into Griffins is actually going to work, as the 308 Phoenix Smokers car goes for a bit of an adventure there. Steve McMahon doing some lawn mowing out of Hell Corner, and that's going to be an exchange for position between them and the 226, I believe. Yes, Lucas McAuliffe managing to get past in the Carbon Potatoes entry, now up into 20th place, but man...
Explain this to me. The Carbon Pumpkin car, orange roll bar. Carbon Eggplant, purple roll bar. Carbon Potatoes, green roll bar. Those are some potatoes that you haven't stored correctly.
Yes, potatoes that will likely have increased concentrations of arsenic in them. So, I don't know, maybe that's an intentional decision. I mean, there's white on the rear bumper and potatoes are white inside. Oh dear, that doesn't look good there for the number 18, Jake Craven, with the front bumper hanging off on one corner. There's been a problem for him, looks like, across the top of the mountain. So the car looks fine here for the time being. What has gone on for him?
It's unconventional lines with some shallow entry in some places here. Again, not the line you'd quite expect. Now super wide over the top.
Oh, that'll do
Gets
it.
a lot of curb and straight into Brock's skyline.
Oof. And that's a very dangerous spot to have an incident. Fortunately, the drivers behind saw it happening and were able to stay to the right. So that car's now back into the pits, and very unfortunate for them. The top two continue their fight. It looks like Damon Mulqueen's brought the Synergy number 42 back into the pits meanwhile, but these two, they are in their own little world at the moment. Some slight damage on the number 10. You see the right side mirrors hanging off. iRacing's new damage model, of course, in play on these cars. Some right side tyres going on there as Brenton Hobson gets back into the number 42, and I would say that right side tyres are a pretty good bet at Bathurst. There's obviously plenty of left-handers around the lap, but there are a few more there's a few right-handers on the lap, but there's more left-handers, which would put more load on the right tyres. Lefts and rights getting confused. That's another thing that happens a lot with me.
As everyone who's, ever shared the back seat with their brother on a long car ride knows, it's the outside that gets loaded through a corner and they lean across on you.
Yes, exactly. Ah, man, I never seem to be able to get over that. I always say, oh, into the right-hander. Wait, no, it's actually a left. But by the time I realise it, the words have already come out of my mouth.
Could be a lot worse words escaping your mouth without you realising.
Oh, yes.
So one thing to note about that pit stop, the now third stop in the race for Synergy Sim Racing, is Damon Mulqueen did 5 laps to start the race, then it was 11 for Hobson, then Mulqueen was just back in for another 6. He's still got to do 9 more laps later on in this race, methinks, but with that stint length that they can run from here of 15 laps, tick, 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 my brain ticking over. Yeah, they'll be able to make it to the end with 1 more stop from here, now that they've front loaded a bunch of them. So I reckon you give 14 to 15 now to Brenton Hobson, and then you'll be at
Round lap
38,
yeah.
39, and then Mulqueen to the end from there.
That seems sensible. Oh, that's not too sensible there for Dylan Canto. A little bit wide out of the dipper, and goodness me, you see how hard he's working the wheel, coming down through Forest Elbow. These guys have had quite a few adventures over the course of this race. It's still been an all-right recovery from their earlier incident at the start of the race for the number 78, but Dylan Canto might want to minimise those wall taps.
Yeah, half the time it'll just knock your mirror off, but occasionally you'll just catch the concrete wrong and you can do some real big suspension damage, and that will cost you a lot of time.
Looking back through the field, looks like a pass going on for 4th and 5th. Cooper Allen in the Few Blokes Inc. car, drafting his way past Glenn Boyd in the Boyd Racing machine. I'll tell you what, Boyd Racing, they've done quite well here to recover like they have on 1 pit stop, but remember the Few Blokes Inc. car only completed their 2nd stop recently, and that's going to be the 2nd stop for the Boyd car. Glenn brings it in, and I would expect that Jack Boyd will jump right back in, because Glenn has been in the car for about 12 laps now.
And Savarti is just in front of them as well. So 2nd stops for these guys. Tell you what's interesting, Few Blokes, the number 37, have done 2 stops to the leader's 1. Few Blokes Inc. are only 35 seconds off the overall lead. Pretty sure the pit stop delta is a lot closer to 45. So I would say Few Blokes Inc. are not in a bad spot at the moment.
I'd say so too. Doing quite well at the moment. Andrew Hobby's jumped back into the 111 machine, and Jack Boyd, of course, back in the number 58. And it looks like that car is spick and span at the moment. It looks like a fairly incident-free pit stop for Boyd Racing, and knowing Jack Boyd's pace, it'll be interesting to see how much time he ends up making up. But that's where he comes out in 14th position behind Sonny Canchin and Damien Seeger. WBT car has had a very good recovery. They remember they were outside the top 20 at the end of lap 1. They've managed to recover to 12th so far, and for Sonny Canchin, the amount of time he's spent in the car, well, he's come up on 10 laps in this stint so far, so we'll expect that car in the next 2 to 5 laps. It'll be interesting to see if Wayne Losh decides to jump back in. just a few moments as the number 5 brings it out. We're at half race distance and the random safety car has been called. Now this changes a few things, doesn't it? Which teams are going to decide to bring in for one of their compulsory pit stops here under safety car conditions?
I have to say, I think this could well benefit teams that have front-loaded those pit stops. That was one of the things I had in mind. I think Cory Mcfarlane and Downshift SimRacing at 5 and the 10 out front, I think get caught out by this a little bit. Few blokes are going to catch right back up to them, and they've already made 2 of their stops. Zingerbox Racing are also going to close right in, having made 2 of their stops. I think this is good for Boyd Racing as well, because Jack Boyd's in the car right now on his outlap. He's a man with a lot of speed in these cars, and he's going to get back all of that time that they lost with that uncharacteristically long stop earlier.
So the only cars left in the field with only 1 stop under their belt, the top 2 obviously, Cory Mcfarlane and Downshift SimRacing. In fact, both Downshift SimRacing cars only with 1 stop. Simon Joel Smith is bringing the SJS MVE car in for their 2nd stop of the night. The Extreme Racing car of Anthony Connors, now up into 9th, only has 1 stop. And then you got to go down to 15th place. The Sassy Foods I Make It You Take It entry. They are on 1 stop as well. Well, this team's certainly got one there.
One of those is a drive-through penalty, all right?
Yes. At the very least, they're close to getting their mandatory stops out of the way.
Show us the pit stop count for 308.
Says 3 stops for 3 trips through the pits, to be exact.
I count 3 pit stops, 4 trips through the lane for this car.
Yes.
I think that one of them, they did not stop in the box. A couple of cars getting waved around, as they should. I guess that's good news for them. And it means teams that, had maybe done 2 stops compared to these leaders 1, and had found themselves off the lead lap by virtue of that, get it back. Pace car speed is always kind of rapid compared to these cars. It takes the field a little while to get caught up compared to if they were, GT3s or something.
Have a look at that. Absolutely no revs here for Ollie McLansborough. He's clutching hard to save fuel.
Well, he's using 6 that you'd never, very rarely otherwise see anyway as well. Though to be fair, the gearbox ratios are a little more sensible now in this sequential than when they were the road-going H pattern, where 1st, 2nd, and 6th were completely useless. Now it's a little bit better. We've strayed from BMW M4 GT4 land into the world of close ratio racing gearboxes. Look at people like car number 69, Ben Snell team perhaps, and I think, is that White Knuckle or Pumpkin Carbon in front of them? You wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know the yellow is out. These guys are fanging it.
Oh yeah, that they are, going at full racing speed. Of course, this is likely due to an echidna that has already been removed from the circuit, so those guys will certainly race their way through. Yes, and have a look at that. Everyone in around about the top 5, top 6 making their way in. So McFarlane, Patterson, Allen, McLansborough and Neil McKenzie all in. Anthony Connors, Sonny Canchin and Damien Seeger in the Pouch Racing entry are also in. So let's see how much shuffling goes on here. Definitely a couple of driver changes happening.
Yeah, you'd think so. It's kind of more interesting who hasn't stopped. Well, it's Simworx, Penrite, Extreme Racing, White Knuckle Sim Racing, Carbon Eggplant, Savat 111, and Boyd Racing. Almost everyone else pitting. important to note that everyone leaving pit lane right now has still got one more stop to get to the end as a minimum, but some of them have still got to make 2 more, in fact. So anyone who's made 3 stops right now, like Few Blokes Inc., they're in the middle of this as well. They've got 1 stop to get to the end, Few Blokes Inc., but they're right behind Downshift and Hydes McFarlane. They're going to have to make 2.
Oh dear. Awful lot to try and keep track of here. But that's the stop time for Caleb Hydes as he makes his way back out, now in 7th behind this safety car pack. In terms of the cars that decided not to pit, that stayed out, well, the SAVRT 111 and the Boyd Racing entry, well, they didn't need to come in at all. They were only they're only on their 3rd lap now into this stint. It's the 7th lap of the stint for 1st and 3rd, and the White Knuckle Sim Racing car, they're on the 9th lap of their stint, so there's every chance that they might end up having to bring it in at the end of the safety car period. That's going to cost them an awful lot of time.
So I mean, barring, some miracles, we're going to see some carnage, by the way, on the restart, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's going to look like lap 1 again, so take absolutely nothing for granted on this one. But I would put half of my twin pack chocolate bar on the line and say our race winner is going to be one of the cars that's cleared 3 of their pit stops at this point.
Yeah, so your eyes are obviously on the likes of Few Blokes and Zingerbox Racing, amongst others.
Yeah, and who else has impressed me in that group?
We've also got WBT and Pouch Racing that have gotten their 3rd stops out of the way.
Yep. Synergy have made all 4 of their stops already, but the reality is they're not making it to the end from here, but they could pit in 6 laps time or so to get to the end, so they could be one of the first cars to stop to get to the end there as well. What's happening? Is this an end of line?
Not too sure there. That's the number 48, Matt Van Egmond in the team SJ SMVE. I think, yeah, potentially getting some form of penalty. I'm not too sure as we have more cars jumping into the lane. Well, Caleb Patterson has brought the Downshift Sim Racing Pro car into the lane. In fact, both Downshift cars in. Owen Coleman brings the number 24 into the lane as well. Now, this is... they're going to be clearing an extra pit stop.
Yeah,
this is going to put them right at the back of the pack.
I think that's still better than having to make a 30-second green flag stop. I think, given the situation they've found themselves in, this is the best move for them.
I would agree on that. We've also got Sassy Foods, Make It You Take It, and Obsidian Racing in the lane as well. Bard Rodkin and in the Obsidian car, and Scott Withers, it looks like, taking over in the number 14. Now, the lights are off on the pace car, so we will be going green this time by. There's still plenty of time for the drivers that have just come into the pits to catch themselves back up to the pack, but it is going to be Aaron Oliver who leads the way in the number 26. And remember, they're not too far away from having to make a green flag pit stop, unless there's another caution, which is unlikely. So we'll check out the class leaders for the time being. Of course, Aaron Oliver in the Pro class leading that one. Scott Harvey there in P2 overall. Then we've got Greg Holmes down in 11th leading the AM class. Of course, Pro-Am being the white knuckle sim racing car leading at the moment. But we've still got to keep an eye out for the number 10 car. Actually, looking for the number 10 car. Can't seem to get it at 24th place at the moment for Caleb Patterson in the downshift sim racing machine. Of course, he's driving with the driver who ended up putting it on second place in qualifying, Team Venables. They've got quite a bit of work to do towards the end. Here's where the checkup really starts here on Conrod Straight. We've got drivers accelerating their way out of Forest Elbow, but they have to get on the brakes quick sharp here. Big checkup. Don't make any rear end contact, guys. Very embarrassing to do under safety car conditions, but we'll be going green here, David, and it seems to me that the ball is definitely in the court of Aaron Oliver for the moment. How long does he decide to go before he brings it into the lane? I would expect him to just run it out as much as he can towards the 15 lap mark of that stint.
Yeah, well. Things are going to get interesting around lap 35 as well, because that's the beginning of that last stop marker. Things looking pretty congested towards the back there. Team Perhaps just don't seem to know where they're meant to slot into this one. It's got a lot of cars doing that. Is it too wide? Restart? I wouldn't think so.
No. Nah. There's never two wide restarts on road courses, to my knowledge. So there's obviously some confusion happening amongst the drivers, but the pace car is in. And potentially at the apex of Murray's Corner, or even just before it, Aaron Oliver puts the power down, and we go green again to start lap 29 of the Simworx Roadster Rumble here at Mount Panorama. And everyone's single file as they make their way across the line, but back in the field, looks like a couple of moves being made. Brenton Bull in the Carbon Pumpkins car trying around the outside of the number 77 of Graham Ellis, and manages to get that move done at Hell Corner. But then up at the front, it's as close as it's ever been. It's a slightly good gap here for the number 26, but for second on back, it is certainly on. Boyd Racing with Jack Boyd at the wheel, making a move up the inside of Andrew Hobby. Oh, a little bit of avoiding action having to be taken there by Caleb Hides. He had to get on the curb. That has let Josh Haynes by in the Few Blokes Inc. car. Again, that's one of those cars that could be in contention for the win here, and diving up the inside of Andrew Hobby is Josh Haynes. That was a nice move there, very opportunistic.
Yeah, making big moves. To be honest with you, I don't think they've got to. I don't think they need to. I think they've got the best strategy position of anyone. This is Team Perhaps, who I think might have just made a move on Race Labs Racing there. So Luke Fist, car's up 12 positions overall, but might have gone back one there. So someone check on Nick Skariev later on. Things looking pretty close and potentially stressful on this race restart. Here is Synergy.
Chasing down Dylan Canto through the S's, and oh man, like watching these cars from behind, I always feel like they're on the verge of spinning into the braking zones, but you know, these cars stop on a dime as, oh my goodness, it's looking a bit messy here out of Forest Elbow. Looks like Josh Haynes ending up getting repassed there by Jack Boyd, and Tom Huggan falling behind as well. Have a look at Scott Harvey. He's got a massive draft on Aaron Oliver up the front as the bump drafting begins for third on back. These guys are starting to catch up now. Have a look at Jack Boyd. He's going for it in the braking zone, putting himself into this top three as Oliver defends. Bit of contact there. Boyd almost sent spearing off the circuit. He does catch the grass a bit, and he's been compromised from that. Harvey is going to have to go defensive here. versus Josh Haynes. Into Murray's corner, side by side, plenty of room given, and Boyd is going to try and sweep around the outside here. It's been a great recovery here from the Boyd Racing crew after their poor pit stop earlier. Now they are right back in it.
No one from Few Blokes Inc. has counted the pit stop, obviously. Josh Haynes just sending it several opportunities here, now up into second, and you saw how close it was on the way into the chase. 6 cars covered by just 1 second in that lead. Well, it's just as close now as they head up Mountain Straight. Aaron Oliver has a little bit of time to Few Blokes Inc., a little bit of time to Jack Boyd, and then look at that congestion all behind. They're 3 wide, and it's forcing Hydes McFarlane to the inside 3 wide. I don't think that's going to end well.
They just managed to make it out, though. Caleb Hyde's battling with Matthew Hansford-Taylor in the Zinger box car. The leaders make their way into the cutting. Doesn't look like any moves being made there so far. All the way down into, I would say, first gear for the cutting with this new gearbox that the MX-5s have. Number 42 of Synergy Sim Racing still trying their best to work their way up here. They are now up into 20th position and not quite making the progress that they would want off this restart, but still the fact that the car remains clean is the most important thing here at Mount Panorama.
A little bit of Jordan Cox action for the lead of the race. Side by side across Skyline.
Whoa!
Somehow doesn't end in catastrophe. Almost ends in catastrophe later. Here, coming down towards the elbow.
Oh, goodness me. Very good heads-up driving from both of those guys there. And that looks to me like Boyd racing up into second, and have a look for third on back, fourth on back even. Scott Harvey is in trouble here. Andrew Hobby might round him up here along Conrod Straight. We ride on board with Matthew Hansford-Taylor. What a view this is. 2 wide into the chase up ahead. And whoa, to the grass. He's going for the move there is Hansford-Taylor. He passes Caleb Hydes, and he might be able to squeeze up the inside of the number 92 here. He does indeed. Gets the move done on Scott Harvey. That was brave.
Yeah, and then off the track for the driver in front of Andrew Hobby means he's going to have a good run at him as well. I'm calling this car, the 97, as net second right now. Few Blokes Inc., I think your net leader, having made 3 stops and being in the lead outright. Zingerbox Racing, the next car to have made 3 stops. The next car after that, Team WBT, I think they're in a good position. Net podium as Dylan Canto come into the lane.
That's going to be the 4th trip into the lane for those guys. Remains to be seen whether or not they've covered their 4 mandatory stops, and either way, with 20 laps to go, they're going to have to pit at least once more towards the end. There's Hansford-Taylor having a look up the inside of Andrew Hobby, and he gets it done coming into Griffin's Bend. As you like it. Starting to look very close for the lead as well. Josh Haynes still holding on in the Few Blokes Inc. car, but Jack Boyd has caught up to him magnificently using the draft down Mountain Straight.
Well, things are a little more tentative in the opening goings, but I think we've really sorted some of the fastest cars to the front, and then you see what pack racing in these things looks like. It's very similar to if you tuned on your TV to watch the Toyota 86s at the Mount Panorama. I think that style of racing and the lap time's very similar. In fact, I think these are actually quicker than the 86s. But similar-ish lap times, a very, very similar style of racing where a slipstream is worth a lot, and a little mistake in a pack like this can see you lose 2, 3, 4 positions or very easily end up in the wall. You've got bit of a 3-car breakaway at the moment here, unless Zingerbox Racing can just bridge that, and I think that could be critical for the race win. I'm still seeing it as between 37 out front and 97 currently sitting in 4th, trying to stay in touch with Josh Haynes. You saw how quickly on that restart, 1 lap, 2 laps, came from, 8th into the lead of the race, so he's clearly on the move and very, very quick at the moment.
Interesting to see there, Jack Boyd not going for the move at the chase, but going for a move indeed is Scott Harvey, trying to defend from Wayne Losh in the WBT machine. He's driving with Sonny Canchin, remember. Slightly compromised on the exit of the chase, which might bring Greg Holmes into the picture. Tom Huggan watching on in the number 63, and he lets both of them go. But we see the lift-off in the draft mind games starting to happen again. For the lead, Josh Haynes, he ran a little bit wide out of Hell Corner. That might give Jack Boyd a chance here coming up to Griffins. Does he pull out? No, he doesn't. He goes for the bump draft on the number 37. It's all about trying to consolidate that position. As a very nice exchange there through Hell Corner. Drivers being sorted out from 15th to around 20th. Moz Moros, meanwhile, is going to make his way past Luke Christ coming into Griffin's Bend. That's for 12th and 13th up ahead. They just sorted out that position there.
And you know who's not slipstreaming someone? 23rd place. Everyone in the top 22, they're still racing like this in 4-car packs, 5-car packs. You know, big old bag of fun-size lollies, including this lead battle. And you were calling it out that we started to see a return to normalcy. With Boyd Racing pushing the leader and 3rd and 4th just staying in line. Great work from Zingerbox Racing to join these leaders, though.
Yeah, they're right on the back of them now as they come into the S's. And
would you say the 97 was on the move?
Yes, it was a clucking good fight back, I have to say.
Yeah, indeed, and this is an important place for them to be because if they're clued onto it, they'll know that the car in front of them that they want to be close to when you come to those final pit stops in about 3 laps time is Few Blokes Inc. And the car behind it they've got to keep covered off isn't part of this lead pack. Team WBT had a couple too many battles, lost a bit too much time going side by side.
Oh. Again, Jack Boyd, he's leaving nothing to it, is he? Bumper to bumper on the way into the chase. You've got to have a lot of confidence in the driver ahead and in yourself not to overshoot your braking point at that stage. Out of the chase, a few adventures happening back in the top 10. Wayne Losh up at the front of all of this, and into the pits goes Tom Huggan, bringing the number 63 in. And yeah, with 12 laps completed, that's going to be their 3rd mandatory pit stop out of the way. We should expect them in once again before the end. Maybe 3 laps from the checkered flag.
Yeah, something that'll depend on who's done the bulk of the driving share. So some of these final stops are also going to be to make sure that one driver does at least 20 laps. Got a move potentially on for Zingerbox Racing there? No, they roll out of it. And what's left is Cory Mcfarlane Racing and the 111 just start to catch on as well. They're not leapfrogging each other. Then it seems like anyone that can just get a whiff of the slipstream is going to catch this, because look at them, all back together again. By the time they get to the bottom of Conrod, we could be 6 cars within 1 second again.
Yeah, and those are the top 6 positions in the race. That safety car has certainly turned this into a brilliant fight for the lead. Of these cars, the first that we can expect into the pits is the number 26, Aaron Oliver at the wheel in 3rd. They're currently on the 13th lap of this stint. Meanwhile, Zingerbox Racing and Cory Mcfarlane Racing, they're only on the 7th lap, as are the leaders at the moment. So we'll expect them to potentially go a little bit longer, unless they have some driver stint time issues they have to sort out. But down to the chase, this is going to be where moves are potentially made. I wouldn't expect Jack Boyd to go for the move on Josh Haynes. He's been quite comfortable to stay behind. But I'd be interested to see what Andrew Hobby in the 111 at the back of this pack does. It's been an incredible fight through the field for the SAVRT team. Remember, they started in 20th.
Yeah, it says plus 14 for them on my timing screen. I was just clicking through some of the drivers in this lead pack, seeing what driver combinations are done and how many laps, and it's still a little bit too far to go to the end. But there's quite a few of them that are going to have to stop about 8 or 9 laps to go to put the other driver back in to clear the laps. They're not going to go and stop 3 to go, so the driver currently in would have done too many laps and not left enough for the co-driver. Things getting interesting here though, 3rd and 4th. Simworx Racing want up into that 3rd, and Simworx Penrite Extreme want to give it away. They're probably just gonna have to. You were trying to put some air in the tyres of the 111?
Yeah. Some extra air probably wouldn't go astray as the white knuckle number 92 brings it into the lane.
Au contraire, I think if you're going off-roading, I hear you've got to lower your pressures.
Oh yes. Yeah, that is certainly the best way to go about it. Oh, goodness me. That is an attempted move there for Hydes McFarlane. We're not able to get by the number 26, who has now fallen back down into 4th place. Simworx Racing definitely doing well here in this particular stint. It's amazing watching these cars go across the top of the mountain. You alluded to it before. This is one of the sections where they're actually more or less flat out through these left-handers across the top of the mountain through McPhillamy Park. In most other cars, faster ones at least, you have to at least lift for a lot of those corners, but these guys, they just pedal to the metal all the way up until they get to this braking zone down through the S's. And even then, they're not braking that early.
If you've ever seen data from XL's racing here, when they open the throttle at the cutting, they do not lift from 100% till they get to Skyline, because it's uphill, and they've got 90 horsepower or something, and enough grip to take it flat out through there. Anything else needs a little more. You do have to feather the throttle a little bit to get the car to turn, particularly I think across that little crest before Skyline. In the mid-pack, things could get interesting, and you know, you can watch cars battle side by side, but you need the bigger picture about who's done how many stops. And well, in this one here, Phoenix Smokers Racing have, I think, done 2 or 3 stops. Sassy Foods and Downshift behind them, and Synergy in this pack as well cleared a lot of their stops.
Yes, Matt Van Egmond, though, who Nick Wood is attempting to pass here at the chase, but he's going to hold on to it. Great defence around the outside there from Matt Van Egmond. They've only done 2 stops so far, so they're going to have to cram their final 2 stops here into the last 15 laps. Have a look at the run around the outside, meanwhile, there from... Oh, dear, that's a car spun at the exit of Murray's Corner. That looks like a 747. Oh, that's a shame there for Mosmoros. Wonder if that was contact with another car. Certainly some damage to the right-hand side. And, oh, it's sort of a double whammy here for Mosmoros. He made the initial mistake on his own. But Brody Cook, just behind him in the 69 Team Perhaps car, driving with Ben Snell, will not have much of a chance to avoid Moros when he does this. Gets into the tyre barrier, spins across the road, and T-bone.
Yeah, catches that Armco, then ends up parked right wide, and you're going to see it again, and it's tough because the way the car in front catches that wall, it ends up presenting the biggest possible target you can. You know, it's more than the width of the car. Suddenly it's the whole length of the car that he's got to avoid, and he didn't have time or space to be able to do that. I think if the car in front had glanced, I think if Pouch had glanced across the barrier, Brody Cook would have missed. But it's that right there.
Yeah, there was no time to react at all, was there? That's just an unfortunate side effect of the construction of the track at that point. Well, the Team Perhaps car is still out there, and they've had to let the likes of Withers, Van Egmond and Wood by across the top of the mountain. But the top 6 continuing to run line astern as they have been for some time, but with one change. Hydes McFarlane Racing has moved ahead of the number 26 Simworx Penrite Extreme car and is right on the back of them now as they make their way into the chase. Josh Haynes has done a very good job to hold on to the lead here. Of course, he hasn't had much in the way of pressure from Jack Boyd, thanks to lifting off in the braking zone. But there we go. Number 26 is going to bring it into the lane. Aaron Oliver getting the third stop out of the way for that car. And just, actually, it looks like, I was just seeing something on my timing screen that ended up not being a thing. The final pit window, of course, is open. They have until 2 laps from the end to get their stops out of the way. So, for context, it's 3 stops for Few Blokes Inc. and Zingerbox Racing, first and third. Every other car in the top 5 has only done 2 stops.
Yeah, and I'm looking at how far Few Blokes and Zingerbox are into their current stints, how many laps their drivers have done, and they've lined it up pretty precisely, because when Josh Haynes and Matthew Hansford-Taylor reach 15 laps on this stint, they will have also reached 30 laps total in the race. They'll hand it over to their co-driver to get to the end. They can stop for their final stop anywhere between now and in 6 laps time, as that's plenty of too wide in Griffin's Bend.
Yes, it is. Nick Wood and Matt Van Egmond continuing to keep each other very close company, with Owen Coleman and Scott Withers in there as well. Just behind them, we've got Damon Mulqueen in the Synergy Sim Racing number 42. This is potentially 4 extra positions they could gain if these drivers come together side by side between Coleman and Withers, and contact is made, but they both keep it out of the wall only just.
Damon Mulqueen had a hell of a view for that as well, and he's not staying quite so close with SJS, MVE or Phoenix, as well as the 2 cars that were in front of him start to battle side by side. And Nick Wood.
That's a much better exit from the dipper there, and he might be able to squeeze one here. Oh, take it easy, boys. Up the inside into Forest Elbow, 1 car width of space left, and that was all Nick Wood needed.
Oh, guys.
Ugh.
Do you ever see any other car making a pass there and it not ending in some combination of tears, swears, and a big repair bill? Somehow managed to get down the inside, and we're going to have much more of the same on the way down Conrod and through the chase. Bit of a bump draft going on there, as well as 14 pushes 24, and I think Damon
there we go. Oh, Matt Van Egmond, he got tagged in the right rear, heavy into the wall in the chase.
I was going to say, Damon Mulqueen in the Synergy Sim Racing car was keeping 3-4 car lengths back to give himself time and space to react if something like that happened, and it did happen. 3rd stop for Boyd Racing, still need to make 1 more in the final 13 laps of this race. 14 to go.
Yes, they're going to fall down the order a little bit, and Damon Mulqueen brings it in here. In the Synergy Sim Racing 42, they will likely be good to the end. Matt Van Egmond, no surprise that he is in the pits after that heavy damage sustained in the chase. So we'll take another look at that, thanks to our friends at Virtual Racing School. And it was Scott Withers on the inside, and I mean, I understand why Matt Van Egmond turned in when he did. It's very hard to maintain the left side line through there, but I think just an unfortunate coming together. That was the view on board from Scott Withers, and he might be feeling a little sheepish about that.
Yeah, you see that happen sometimes. You know, 2 drivers who don't want to hit each other come side by side through that first bit of the chase, and contact kind of becomes inevitable if neither driver is going to lift. They just can't quite navigate it side by side. Saw it in S5000 and other things. You see it quite commonly for supercars or GTs through there as well, that what might be flat by yourself can't be flat too wide through there, and the lines converge. For Synergy Sim Racing and Damon Mulqueen pitting to give the car back to Hobson, it's because Mulqueen had just reached his compulsory 20 laps minimum, and now his teammate can drive it all the way to the end. They might be the first car to have cleared that hurdle and be able to go to the end now.
Well, we shall keep an eye on the number 42 to see how far up they finish. It's been a difficult drive back through the field for them, but they might still be on for a top 10 finish if things line up well for them. Keep an eye on Nick Wood. He is having a very fun time battling with these drivers. Owen Coleman gets the move done on him at the chase, but has he gone a bit too deep? Oh, there were hints of it, but it looks like Coleman just managed to pull it up in time. And they've still got Scott Withers there as well, who's carrying some left side damage from the earlier contact with Van Egmond. In comes the 308 into the pits, and also the number 44, it seems, Luke Quist, bringing the Race Labs car in. Pit lane actually a hive of activity. We've got WBT Wayne Losh, Extreme Racing Greg Holmes, Downshift Sim Racing Caleb Patterson, also in there as well.
I think teams that had pitted just before that safety car have now reached their 15 laps in a stint and are coming in, and there's quite a few teams that have now reached that point where one of their drivers has done enough laps that they can go to the other, and that's what's seeing this flurry on lap 38.
News from race control, that incident we just saw between the number 48 and the 14 at the chase, it's been reviewed and classed as a racing incident, no penalty. I think that's a good decision.
Yeah, no one wholly to blame, no intention of malice or real carelessness there, it just happens.
Sometimes two cars will just come together, and you have to take into account the nature of the track as well. So Nick Skariev has taken over operation of car 44 coming out of the pits, and he's got Brenton Hobson there, who's just gotten past him, I believe. No, actually, they have indeed. Down in 16th at the moment, 17th and 18th for Snell and Quist. Snell, I think it's pretty amazing that car is still running in pretty solidly in the lower midfield, considering what happened to them early on.
Yeah, absolutely torrid time in the first 10 laps or so. The beauty of Bathurst is that you can have a lot of missteps and still stay on the lead lap, or only be one lap down and get a lap back with that safety car. So you can be best case scenario 4.5 minutes delayed in the first half of the race and still be on the lead lap right now.
The cars 14 and 24, 5th and 6th at the moment, and they're both on the 11th lap of their stint, but the number 14 deciding to bring it in, that's Scott Withers, and we'll see if he hands over to his co-driver. I would expect he will. Meanwhile, the fun continues for the number 308. Remember, these guys are fighting for 18th, 19th and 20th. Nick Skariev has gotten up to speed very nicely, staying with these guys down Conrod Straight, and potentially a move here on Carl Goodger for Steve McMahon, who now takes over the Phoenix Smokers MX-5 up the inside at the exit of the entry of the chase, and move easily done there.
Is this a long stop for 14? No, it's just coming up for 30 seconds. So they definitely look like they've cleared their final stop with this, and away they go. Some of the cars they might have been racing a little further ahead. Damien Seeger, 747. It's still on schedule there with their stop. Sort of uncharacteristically long stops, I don't know. Just because of that driver change and tyre change, etc. requirement. There's no 5-second stops, it's all 30-second stops, and you see the tyre change happen, and then the car's just sat there waiting. You don't see anything happening until the clock hits half a minute. So longest, worth reiterating, longest at 37 and 97 can go into this stint now is
3 more laps?
3 more laps each, yeah. And that's, again, lined up with both the stint length and the drive time.
Yeah, the Mcfarlane racing car is the same amount of time into their stint, but remember, they've still got an extra stop to go. Those guys, on the other hand, in the 111, they have reached the end of that maximum stint length. 15 laps complete for Andrew Hobby, and he's going to bring that one in for its final stop of the night. So I reckon they are definitely in contention there for the podium position. They might face a bit of a challenge from the downshift sim racing number 24. They're 12 laps into their stint currently. Does actually look like quite a gap between them though for 4th and 5th, so I think the 111 is pretty safe here. The downshift sim racing car will definitely have to come in a few laps time, as that looks interesting there at the chase between the 92 and the 10. Remember, Tane Van Abels and the Downshift Sim Racing Pro car, they've completed all of their compulsory stops, but they are still going to have to bring it in once more. Actually, no, they won't. Sorry, I misspoke there. They only just completed their extra pit stop.
Yeah, and Caleb Patterson's done 23, so Venables into the end is going to be fine there. And then the other thing, they stopped 2 laps ago. Yeah, they're good to get to the end. So number 10, good to get to the end. A lot of cars in their slipstream that aren't, they're not really battling, including Carbon Potatoes back there who've been through the lane 4 times. But their last stop 10 laps ago is not going to get them to the end. So it takes a lot of digesting all of these pit stop stint lengths and pit stop numbers and how far who and what is off the lead. But I'm predicting a top 5 in this order at the moment of Few Blokes Inc., Zingerbox Racing, Downshift Sim Racing, Team WBT, and the Downshift number 10. Leaders in.
Oh, yes, indeed. In they come. Josh Haynes and Matthew Hansford-Taylor. That promotes the Mcfarlane racing car into the lane. Into the lead, sorry. But they are going to have to come in at the end of this lap to get their 3rd stop out of the way. This is the 4th trip into the lane for both of these cars, and we do expect that they will maintain the top 2. But let's see what Andrew Hobby can do here. He's battling hard with Lee Harrison, who pitted 5 laps ago.
It's Nicholas Scaife now on the outlap for 111. On the same strategy here, and now they're not anymore. This is going to be the final stop for the number 26 of Lee Harrison. Boomstead is at the moment.
Actually looks like the 111 car is going to have to come in one more time as well. That pit stop they just took was their 3rd one.
Yeah, so that's why them and the 26 were on the same strategy until the 26 just took their final stop. Then this is your net leaders out, Zingerbox and Few Blokes, and Zingerbox has gotten ahead.
Slightly...
3-second, slightly delayed one there for Few Blokes. It was 33 seconds when 30-ish should have been fine. But critical for the race lead and for the win right now that Few Blokes stay in the slipstream of Zingerbox Racing.
Well, they're doing a good job of it for the time being. Nicholas Scaife just up behind them in the 111. but he's not going to be a part of the picture when we enter the final few laps here. Look at this, even getting into the slipstream up here. Oh, that's interesting. Ollie McLansborough going wide and letting the few blokes car by and trying to get a bit of a slipstream down Conrod Straight, I think that is.
And you might also have that same factor that was pretty critical in the Bathurst 1000 this year, is some cars have an A driver and a B driver, and some cars seem to have an A driver and an A driver. And I think as far as a driver to close it out goes, Cooper Allen looks as strong as any in Few Blokes Inc. Ollie McLansborough might just, not bring quite the same pace that his teammate had, which was Matthew Hansford-Taylor. There's a not insignificant iRating discrepancy between the two drivers for the 97, whereas the 37, I think, a little more rounded.
That's what you want. As 63 battling with 92, Joel Proctor with not as much pace as he'd like down Conrod Straight, maybe just lift it off to let Sean Doyle go into the chase. They're battling for 10th place with the 10 car. Tane Benables back at the wheel of the Downshift Sim Racing Pro machine, and they pitted 4 laps ago. At least it will be when they cross the line next. They are good to the end. Sean Doyle, though, I think might have to bring it in one more time, probably with 3 laps to go, 4 laps to go, thereabouts.
Yeah, because currently 8 laps into a stint with 9 laps to go, which equals 16, which is 1 longer than they would be allowed to go. And also they've only done 3 stops anyway, so yeah. Scott Harvey still needs to do 5 more laps in that car as well.
Yes, so we'll probably expect them to bring it in the end of lap 44 then. Or at least the end of lap 45. Let him get those laps out of the way and they can go to the finish from there, but they might have their current top 10 position under a little bit of threat.
It's all on again for your top 3 now that Hydes McFarlane Racing made their pit stop. They've come out in front for 2nd and 3rd, but still with 1 more to go, 1 more pit stop to make. Head to Few Blokes Inc. and Zingerbox Racing, who, from everything we can see, are good to the end on stint length, on fuel, and on driver time. The 3 boxes they kind of need to tick to make sure that they are good to go.
No bump drafting this time round for Cooper Allen. Of course, they're aware that the number 5 still has to pit once more, so they're technically not in the same race at the moment. For the 97, though, it's going to be a question of getting by efficiently into the chase, and alongside into the braking zone they go, and it's a yield there from Cory Mcfarlane. Did end up losing a bit of time to Cooper Allen, though, did Ollie McLansborough. Seems that he is still within a second or thereabouts, so should still be able to get a whisper of a draft.
So I stick by my top 5 pit stop adjusted runners being Few Blokes Inc., Zingerbox Racing, Team WBT, Downshift Sim Racing Pro number 10, and Synergy Sim Racing now. So they've moved ahead of Team Perhaps and Extreme Racing and Simworx Penrite Extreme Racing. I think Synergy Sim Racing are on for a top 5 overall here. Yes. Yep, because they're only 25 seconds off the overall lead, so there's no one in front of them who's going to stop. and still come out ahead of them.
Well, it's all come together here for Synergy Sim Racing right at the end. After their contact issue earlier, it looks like they're going to improve on their starting position. They're currently one position away from it. Remember, Hobson qualified the car in 9th place. So if they're on for a top 5 finish, that's going to be a nice, profitable night for the number 42, despite their issues.
This is all David Haynes' back of the envelope numbers. The cars that I say are battling for your net lead are now for your overall lead. I'm pretty sure Cory Mcfarlane recognises that these two are clear to the end, and he's still got to make one more of those 4 compulsory stops in this one.
Tell you what, McLansborough, he hasn't quite been able to make up the gap to Allen. I think he'll be grateful that he's still well within the slipstream. This will save him down Conrod Straight and help Zingerbox to continue to fight for the win here. Few Blokes Inc. car started 5th. Zingerbox Racing started 3rd. Hello! Goodness me, Cory Mcfarlane up the inside there into the chase. Not too sure why that move was made. Maybe just trying to lose as little track position as possible before he has to come in for his final stop. He elects not to take it, actually. Coming into the final corner on lap 43. How long are they going to stay out and involve themselves in this overall top 3 fight?
Till lap 48 is the longest they can, because Hides is out after 29 laps, so McFarlane as a driver can stay in to the end.
Hang on a minute. They have to pit by lap 48.
I think Hides. I think Cory Mcfarlane will stay in. No one has yet been penalised for leaving a driver in at a pit stop, only for leaving a driver in longer than 15 laps. So I think there's definitely one stop still to go for Hides, McFarlane Racing, and I think McFarlane will stay in. And by the fuel distance, by the drive time as well, the latest, the only hurdle to clear there is that their last stop needs to be within the compulsory window, which ends lap 48. So the latest that the number 5 could go is to lap 48.
Well, they remain in second, and Team KP Tech in the lane. Jesse White-Carrig now taking over from Philip Paradiso. They'll fall down to about 23rd, 24th position as things stand right now. And into the wall for the number 5. A little bit of momentum lost that won't be appreciated by either McFarlane or McLansborough behind him. And we've just gotten the reminder from race control. All drivers, please remember, it is 4 pit stops minimum required. Maybe they think that the number 5 doesn't quite have a handle on that. But
I think they just want to avoid giving 10 post-race penalties.
Yeah, that would certainly be nice.
So that and that the order that they cross the line is a little closer to reality, with less adjustments required.
Yeah, they'll certainly make it easier for us to read the
that's going to need some adjustment.
Oh dear. What on earth was that all about? Virtual Racing School replay. That was right in front of the leaders. Zachary Barr in the Mentos racing car. It looks like he overshot. There's been 2 incidents, actually. Simon Joel Smith in the S's, I believe. Oh, yeah, just catching a little bit too much grass on the inside, exiting the dipper. And here's Zachary Barr, overshoots Murray's corner, goes for a spin, and then hits the wall and gets flipped by the wall.
Right in front of the leaders, who, didn't get a chance to put him back on his wheels.
That's a shame. Either way, it looks like that's the Mentos racing car out now as Jack Boyd comes in for his final stop of the night. Now we just wait on Cory Mcfarlane to bring it in for his final stop. After they cross the line next, he'll only have 2 more laps to get it done in. There's been some technical issues for both the Few Blokes and Zingerbox racing cars. They're both having some blinking troubles here, but McFarlane is wasting no time trying his best to pressure these guys. He's properly racing with them even though they're not on the same strategy.
I think who McFarlane is actually racing is people like Pouch Racing 747 and Downshift Sim Racing 24. Teams that have made all of their stops and everything, but are about 40 seconds behind on track. I'm guessing that's 40 to 30 seconds behind on track. That's about where he'll end up.
Well, McFarlane has just filtered himself through into the lead down at the chase, but here's a replay of Venables and the Wayne Losh Sonny Canchin car as well. A move being made there by the number 10, proper overtake at Forest Elbow. McFarlane has avoided the pits and he just catches the grass a little on the entry into Murray's Corner. Coming round now to begin lap 46 of 50. And this is the top 3 overall as they are, but the 2 cars behind Cory McFarlane will be the top 2 in the running order when he comes in. As those technical issues continue for Ollie McLansborough, that podium might be in a bit of trouble there for Zingerbox Racing.
Yeah, I'm still worried about that. It's not abating and it's not getting better. Even if it doesn't, drop them, I wonder if they're not getting the slipstream.
Yeah, I think they wouldn't be, because remember iRacing has a lot of stuff operating client side, but also server side as well. If you have a bad connection to the server and there's no cars in front of you for a second, then you lose all slipstream benefit for those seconds that you're alone on the track. So that is one of the worst possible circumstances there for the 97. Fortunately, they're able to keep up with these guys across the top of the mountain. Hard down into the S's for Cory McFarlane.
And he almost got a cheeky bump draft up top there as well. They were really, really close for what is currently first and second. Sooner or later, eventually, we are going to see this number 5 that currently leads the way have to pit.
Could be another position very shortly for the Synergy number 42 as well. They're up into the top 10 now, 8th place to be exact, and starting to round up Lee Harrison in the Simworx Penrite Extreme Racing entry. Let's see what Brenton Hobson can do here down Comrade Straight. Slightly wider exit there for Lee Harrison. That won't help him out. But Hobson
hasn't Simworx Penrite Extreme gotten around Brenton Hobson? So Hobson's back from net 5th into net 6th. I was just, using the fingers on my spare hand to count down the timing screen.
He's going to get it back anyway. I think this is a battle for 5th. Yeah, it is. He gets it back into the chase. That's Brenton Hobson. And oh dear, car off just up ahead of them. That's awkward. Sean Doyle. And he's going to lose those positions there. That's a big shame. The White Knuckle Sim Racing car still has to come in for another pit stop, so maybe now is a good time to take it. Well, there you go.
Strategy brought to you by Reese Gardner.
Yeah, boy.
Southpaw strategist.
I wish. I mean, there's plenty of proof from this broadcast alone that I'm terrible at interpreting strategy in sim racing. I guess that's why you're here, David.
It really is, peering into the crystal ball and, reading the way the petals fell off the flower or something, because there's some really convoluted elements to the strategy here with the compulsory stops and the maximum stint times and the minimum driver laps and the safety car, and it was doing my head until I got around it eventually. And everything kind of looks like it's playing out how I thought it would by my understanding of them rules. We were seeing Synergy and Simworx go back and forth over 5th, but Team Perhaps right behind them also look like they are good to go. So this is a sort of a three-way battle for 5th overall, the way I read it. The tea leaves, that's what you read, isn't it?
Yes. Tea leaves and tarot cards and what have you. Yeah, Ben Snell's keeping himself nicely situated in this battle as Harrison and Hobson battle up ahead. He's going to gain a nice advantage here through the S's as those two drivers try to back themselves off. Such a wonderful circuit, Bathurst. I mean, we talk about it every single time we come here, but it's one of the most iconic circuits in the world for a very good reason. And Lee Harrison pushing as hard as he ever has through Forest Elbow, trying his best to hook up the rear, coming out of the dastardly hairpin. Up the front, I'm seeing that, again, it's avoiding the pits for Hyde's Mcfarlane Racing. They are going to have to pit on the next lap if they don't want to get a penalty.
Yeah, if you were in 10th place, you might, believe that the stewards or race control don't immediately see it. There's no way that they're not watching those top 3 to make sure they're all within the stated rules. I mean, that's the first place you'd look for someone cheating to get an advantage, or getting an advantage from just misunderstanding the rules, whatever the case would be.
Well,
they've caught
4
Team
pit stops
WBT
minimum
here.
Required.
This is 4th overall. So now we've got a 4-way fight for 4th overall now that they've caught Sonny Kanchan. Really scruffy lap, 2:38, about 6 seconds off the pace. Is there a problem for that car?
Maybe. That doesn't look too good there for Sonny Kanchan. It looks like Brenton Hobson is going to round him up here on the run up to Griffin's Bend. Lee Harrison as well will get him. I'm just going to rewind quickly to see if there was a mistake for Sonny Kanchan. Looks to me like his last lap, it didn't look like anything too out of line. I think just not being able to get the pace out of the car, maybe making minor errors and hitting the
by
wall.
6 seconds?
Yeah, I don't understand it, but I went back and looked at that previous lap, and
didn't get a slowdown anywhere? Is he running out of fuel?
I don't know.
No. This is huge. Like, look at this. Brenton Hobson got through at Griffin's Bend.
They might not be good on fuel.
Lee Harrison wasn't able to. He ended up losing out to Team Perhaps, and now even just across the top of the mountain, they're going to lose the slipstream to Synergy Sim Racing. They're already a second back. So that's Synergy up into 4th. Now you're looking at 5th, 6th, and 7th here. When, you hope, the number 5 pits, and you still need a pit stop from... Oh, wait, no, the number 10 is good?
Yeah, the number 10's good.
When did that happen? That snuck up on me.
Oh, does he go into the lane? He doesn't. Uh-oh, the number 5 is in trouble now. The pit window, when they cross the line in 3, 2, 1, has closed. And they have not completed their minimum 4 pit stops in the Hyde's Mcfarlane Racing MX-5. They will not take this race win, even if they cross the line in first.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and I saw saw Cooper Allen and the number 37 weaving side to side a little bit, maybe just sending a coded message to McFarlane. Hey, why are you still out here, mate? You should have gone in. But looks like that's the way things are going to go. Cancian is dealing with a fair bit of pressure here from Harrison and Snell. It's amazing how much time Hobson has managed to gain on Harrison and Snell over the last lap. With Cancian in front of them, they've lost a ton of time to the number 42.
Only a 2:35 this time, so losing 3 seconds compared to his best instead of losing 7 seconds. Something is off. Something is significantly afoot for the 68 trying to go around the outside.
Ben Snell was unable to take much in the way of avoiding action there versus Sonny Cancian. And Cancian now that he's behind Harrison, I don't know, it seems that he's right back on the loud pedal, flat out. Maybe they just needed to do a bit of precautionary fuel saving over those last couple of laps. Because again, I rewound, I looked at the laps for Sonny Cancian, and there were no wall hits, no off-track excursions, nothing of the sort.
That's a mystery for our times, how 7 seconds goes missing. And it doesn't look like it. No way, mate. Oh, he's having a look across skyline.
Cheeky. Don't want to mis-execute that maneuver.
I thought you were, maybe being a little funny when you said that race control pointing out and reminding everyone that 4 pit stops was the compulsory number was maybe directly targeted at the number 5. Thought it was maybe more a general warning because there were a lot of cars that had only completed 3 pit stops at that time. But then it turns out you know them better than me.
Yeah, well, maybe it was just a general... Oh, goodness me, this is getting Larry into the chase. Cancian's now behind Snell and Harrison as they come into the chicane, and up the inside, Ben Snell cannot get by Sonny Cancian just yet. That does allow Lee Harrison to scamper away a little bit, and oh, here we go. Cancian coming into the pits. I would suspect this is to top up the tank.
It doesn't make any sense to me why they would have short fueled it at their last one anyway. It was a 30-second stop still. They were waiting on the driver change. Why skimp on the fuel that...
Maybe
by the
there's
way,
a hardware issue. It could be anything, really.
See, if there's a driver change, you should maybe bet on a hardware problem. But look, who still hasn't pitted, leads the way on the final lap of the race.
Yes, it is white flag, and Cory Mcfarlane looking to bring the Hydes McFarlane number 5 home in P1, but it's not going to P1 at the end.
Well, he's not Cory McPitlane.
No way. Cancian stays in the car, so I think we can get hardware issue out of the picture.
It's a bizarre strategy blunder, potentially, just not taking enough fuel for that final run that might have cost Team WBT a lot. So, what do you do then if you're Ollie McLansborough here in 3rd? He's been very peacefully behind Few Blokes Inc. since basically the outlap when both of them pitted. Is it go for broke time? He's still continuing to struggle with those connection issues.
Yeah, the problem for McLansborough here is that Cooper Allen is going to still be getting a slipstream from Cory Mcfarlane up ahead, so any kind of benefit he'll get in the draft might be negated a little bit. Actually, looking at that, sort of missing the slipstream a little bit was Cooper Allen initially, but look, he's going to round him up here coming into the chase, but McFarlane, he's going defensive, staying in the middle of the road. I'm not sure what the logic behind any of this is for the number 5. Looks like no position's going to be changed here for Few Blokes and Zingerbox, unless there's a big lunge by McLansborough at the final corner, and he's too far back for it. He's not going to get that position. So, they lift off just up ahead. Cory Mcfarlane is going to exit Murray's corner and bring it across the line in 1st, but the win will undoubtedly go to Cooper Allen, who drove with Josh Haynes in the Few Blokes Inc. number 37. Congratulations, guys, you followed the rules.
Staged a bit of a photo finish there as well. The gap between them in the end, just over a tenth between Few Blokes Inc., but they did stay ahead of Zinger Box Racing. That Downshift Sim Racing Pro car was pretty quiet right at the end, and yeah, that's a lapped car, so it's going to be fourth for Synergy Sim Racing, and then close between Team Perhaps and Simworx Penrite, but Lee Harrison held on to it by 2/10.
Yeah, Lee Harrison very, very close there to getting that, what will be a fourth place finish. The number 24, Neil McKenzie, coming across the line, and they will take the win in the AM class. So congratulations to Neil McKenzie and his co-driver Owen Coleman. Those two putting in a very good drive to come home with the AM win here tonight, and the celebrations will undoubtedly start beginning for a lot of these drivers. It was a long, hard-fought night. There's still moves being made out on track. Number 92 versus number 226. Who's going to win this one? It is the 226 Carbon Potatoes that ends up taking 15th place. Lucas McAuliffe and Todd George should be quite happy with that after starting in 23rd.
Yeah, great effort battling wheel to wheel. They started out as mashed potatoes, but now they are potato gems with that one.
Oh, I love it. Oh, Quist and White Carrick still fighting here over 16th to 17th, and they make contact, and Carrick is going to go off into the runoff area at Murray's Corner. A botched overtake there on Luke Quist.
Quist ran him off the road. Quist saw him there and turned into him, but anyway.
Yeah. Yes, actually, yeah. I will correct myself. Misinterpreted that initially. Looked like Quist just went a little bit to the left when he hit the braking zone. But that's the unofficial results. Of course, Hydes McFarlane Racing classified in P1, but they will probably get disqualified.
Refresh the graphic, they just got disqualified.
Yeah, there we go. So
no, it hasn't.
Actually,
it
needs
everyone across. It needs everyone across the checkered flag. The one car you're waiting on is TNT Racing.
Right, so the TNT Racing car is just making their way into the chase now. Tony Dang and Terry Knowles, they've had a very rough night, these two. And coming up to Murray's Corner, they will limp their way across the line here in the number 9. Goodness me, what a tough night of racing at Mount Panorama.
Whoop, there it is.
Whoop, there it is. So, now we can go through the official race results. Few Blokes Inc. from 5th to 1st at the end of it. They take the win by 1.888 seconds from Zinger Box Racing. Downshift Sim Racing Pro is going to complete the podium. The number 10 car doing incredibly well there with Tane Venables and Caleb Patterson at the wheel. Synergy Sim Racing 42 is going to recover to finish 4th. A great drive from Brenton Hobson and Damon Mulqueen. Simworx Penrite Extreme number 26 completing the top 5. Team Perhaps, Ben Snell and Brody Cook, well, they had a very rough start to the race, but 6th place at the end of it, an excellent recovery. And the SAVRT machine with one of the biggest moves in the field from 20th all the way up to 7th. Congratulations for that, guys. Pouch Racing 8th, Downshift Sim Racing 9th, and Team WBT, Sonny Canchin and Wayne Losh will round out the top 10 after some issues late in the race.
And this is new for me. The leader finished 1.7 seconds behind the leader. I've never seen that one before, but there is an edge case for everything, and you always see something new in racing. Not every possibility has yet been explored, as we've seen today with a very interesting race format. Boyd Racing just didn't quite get that strategy right. They had a long stop early as well that cost them, and one of the fastest cars is going to finish 11th overall, ahead of Carbon Eggplant. Phoenix Smokers Racing, very heavily penalised, but recovering to 13th in that car. They had car pace when they needed it. Carbon Potatoes steal one right at the end from White Knuckle Sim Racing. That was some excitement in the final corner on the final lap. Then it's Extreme Racing, Team, I want to say Yesismava, Team SJSMVE, there's just no way to pronounce that. And then Race Labs Racing, Carbon Pumpkins, and Team KP Tech.
Rounding out the top 20 there, and in 21st, Downshift Sim Racing White, Graham Ellis and Tony Vesilis, they come home last of the cars on the lead lap. And the Mauler Esports entry, Canto and Noans, they come home a lap down, along with the Sassy Foods entry of Withers and Beasley, and the TNT Racing entry of Dang and Knowles. Obsidian Racing and Mentos Racing classified 2 laps down after some big damage throughout the course of the race, and then we get into retirement territory. Unfortunate ends here to the LR Esports entry of Jake Craven. Well, Craven, he stayed in the car the whole way through. Looks like he had trouble with his co-driver getting into the session. Rock and Walkershaw Racing, Jamie Walker only made it 27 laps in. The LR Esports entry of Peter Gretton only completing 7 laps. The Hydes McFarlane Racing, well, that's another Hydes actually no, that is the DQ'd number 5, not taking their 4 compulsory pit stops. So, brings to an end proceedings for the racing, but we do have drivers coming in for interviews. The first that we are going to bring in is the winners of our event, Cooper Allen and Josh Haynes. Congratulations on that one, guys. You didn't cross the line in first, but rules infringement means that you do take the win. We'll start with Josh. Coming off that start, man, it was very chaotic to say the least.
Oh yeah, it was pretty tough at the beginning. Cooper DC'd. He was meant to be doing the first stint, and he disconnected, so I had to hop in the car and I took off, and I was like, how do I change gears? Because it was assigned to my sequential shifter, so those first 7 laps were pretty tough. And then we came in, changed the onto my paddles, and then from there it was just really good. We had good pace, and the strategy was insane. So I'd just like to shout out to the few blokes boys on Instagram, and yeah, thanks everyone for an awesome race.
Yeah, certainly was an interesting one. Go to you next, Cooper. An excellent stint from you towards the end, but were you as confused as we were that the number 5 didn't come in for their last stop?
Not sure what they were trying to do. At one point, he was backing us up a bit, so I thought he was trying to push us back into the 10 car, so wasn't too sure what he was doing. So I was hoping he was going to pit by lap 48, but didn't end up doing it. So yeah, not sure what happened there, but yeah, we anyway came away with the win, got the strategy. But big thanks to Ollie, he's bloody set it up beautifully. So yeah, big shout out to the boys.
Absolutely. Well, you guys do come away with the win here at Bathurst. And going back to Josh for a second, what does this mean then for future races in the Simworx Roadster Rumble? Certainly you guys have got the form in the team sense, and now you've got to bring your focus back to the single driver events.
I think I'm going to put in some hard yards, maybe make a couple of liveries for a few blokes. And it's just more about the mental side of it, put in a lot of practice, and yeah, hopefully get some more good results.
Good stuff there, guys. Well, I'll leave it to you, Cooper, to thank who you guys need to thank. Who gets it done for you?
Oh, definitely Ollie worked tirelessly before the race to get all the strategy, absolutely nailed it, pitted early, got our stops done, absolutely nailed it. Josh did a mega job, just coming back from OzTag and jumped straight in the sim just at the end of quali, so bloody beautiful job by them, and thanks to Matt and bloody Ollie behind us, just re-gunning and did an amazing job.
Fantastic job from Few Blokes Inc. to take the victory here at Mount Panorama tonight. Excellent result indeed, and I think that they can certainly be happy, as will the Zingerbox guys, who came home in second place. We're just waiting on confirmation of the number 10 coming home with the Pro-Am win. Tane Van Abels, of course, one of the drivers involved. And
oh, hi mate.
Hello everyone. Just sorting out a couple of things on my end. Third overall for these guys, and Caleb Patterson is the other driver. There he is. They're stood by with David Haynes.
First of all, congratulations to you guys, Pro-Am winners, and also, I think third overall, you'd be pretty pleased with as well.
Yeah, no, thanks mate. Great result for us both, and yeah, stoked. The safety car sort of starts us up a little bit, but we sort of got lucky with Caleb and stuff getting disqualified, which pushed us up to third.
Yeah, pretty heavy on strategy today. I mean, lots of permutations to the compulsory stops, and then we did end up seeing a safety car. Were you thinking about all of that from the very start, or did you just sort of have it going on the fly?
No, I actually completely forgot about the safety car. We were just teeing up our 4 stops, and that's sort of where we got screwed over a bit. But
yeah, especially since when we did enter the pits, apparently because safety car was out and I passed people under yellow going into the pits, it gave us a 26-second penalty, which stopped us from coming out 10 seconds ahead of the leader. So yeah, that wasn't the best on my part, but yeah, it was a big thing tonight having the pit strategy sorted out before the race.
And I mean, always hectic across the mountain, but in these cars more so than ever. It just looked like an ungodly massive slipstream down Conrod Straight, matched with always difficult to pass across the top of the hill.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. It was all about just staying in the tow with the front runners, saving some fuel, and just saving the race to the last 5 or 6 laps. But unfortunately, our pit strategy didn't play into the hands of Josh Haynes and Cooper Allen and the Zinger Box crew. But yeah, it wasn't bad.
Well, congratulations to you guys. A good result from what was a pretty bruising more than 2 hours on the mountain, and anyone who made that checkered flag, I think, did pretty well for themselves. You guys are also going to be happy with your prizes as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100%. I think the cramps in the legs for 2 hours were definitely worth it.
Yeah, huge effort to Caleb as well. He did a mega job.
Yeah, same to Tane, was awesome.
Well, I'll let you guys go, but thanks for having the time to speak to us and putting on a good show across the mountain today.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.
Excellent drive from those guys indeed. And to finish things off here, we have Greg Holmes in the commentary box with us. Greg, looks like the event went off pretty well, didn't it?
It certainly did, boys. Considering I cancelled it twice through lack of interest. And then all of a sudden, third time lucky, everybody jumped on board. And yeah, I was getting messages right up to qualifying tonight. Guys still trying to get in the door. So looks like this might be an event that becomes a bit more regular.
Well, that's good to hear. Hopefully we see more of the fantastic racing that we saw here tonight. I mean, Mount Panorama, it's always amazing to watch racing at, and traditionally hard to pass on in most cars, but not so in these MX-5s. You can really chuck them around.
Yeah, that's the good thing with the little Mazda and Bathurst. You can actually make some passes in areas that if you watch the live race on Sunday, probably wouldn't work quite as well as it does in the little Mazda, but it all just gets down to speed and the other guys around you knowing that the pass is coming, and give them a little bit of space, and everyone survives the mountain to do another lap.
That's what we like to hear. Well, Greg, I'm sure that you have quite a few people to thank here for making this event happen.
Yeah, look, I'd really just like to thank the sponsors that we've had all year for our Roadster Rumble League. You boys have done a fantastic job. A big shout out to both Scott and Jay for putting up with my 100 texts a week to try and make some changes, and every time I ask them, they're always accommodating. So you guys have done a fantastic job. A big shout out to Simworx. I ordered my new sim off them today, so great work, boys. To Palmer's Australia, my wife's listening, so I have to give her a plug. KP Tech, Phil at KP Tech has jumped on for this event tonight and really helped out, so a big thanks to him, and also to Race Labs.
Thank you very much for joining us. Greg Holmes, one of the series organisers here in the Simworx Roadster Rumble. Well, David, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight. quite the interesting event, and I mean, we had it all, didn't we? You expect it all at Bathurst: crashes, drama, and rules not entirely being clear to certain teams, I suppose.
I mean, yeah, that's Bathurst. I mean, you know, if it doesn't come down to that, it comes down to valve lift or could you pass the safety car. So there's always rules to be followed. If 32 cars follow them and you don't, I don't think you can blame the rules on that one. We did see some great driving, some really clever strategy plays from drivers and teams that did front load a lot of those pit stops and then reaped the rewards with the safety car. And particularly at the front where we were looking, a lot of pretty clean driving, lots of opportunities for things to end in chaos that saw drivers give each other just the right amount of respect. They all wanted to make it to the end.
And make it to the end, most of them did. So we say thank you once again for tuning in and giving this event a watch here on SimSpeed TV. A big thanks once again to all the sponsors. You can see up in the top left, Greg Holmes thanked them as well. And I suppose we will see you next time. I'm Reese Gardner. It was David Haynes alongside me and Jay Kennedy on production here at SimSpeed TV. We say bye for now, but certainly not forever.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?